are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today we're joined by Cosmo Mom 09, as always, because she's my rock, she's my island, and I'm me, I'm David Cameo. What else do you want? I'm here all the time. Well,
right.
You know, except when I'm not. Like the two times I think I decided to take some back.
We've established that you just live in this box.
I live in this box, and then sometimes I hide. Yeah, sometimes I play producer god, and then when Carol's on the show and you guys are together, like, oh, let's let them play for a little while in these waters, see how it feels to guide a show. Okay, right. You see how it's like.
It's not hard. That easy.
So yeah, we were talking about politics in the pre-show. What's the pre-show? Oh, the pre-show. What? There's a pre-show? Well, if you want to be a part of the pre-show, as well as these episode recordings like Sharon D and Nisa are, why don't you buy us a coffee? Head over to ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. For less than a cup of coffee, you can get 30 days of access to our supporter-backed content, of which are unedited episode recordings the minute they're done recording, the ability to join us in these recordings and lend us your thoughts, and more as we go on. But in case you don't want to jump in right away, for now, you can get our unedited episodes for free. Pay what you want. It's our way of kind of roping you in to support the podcast because we're even. No, we love you. And AMC's Talking Dead is behind a paywall until November 22nd when they finally go public on AMC. So we thought we'd give you something for your efforts. Just like we made it so that you guys could join us in our episode recordings during the kind of flattening of the curve during the pandemic, and then also going on to doing our live watches of movies, and then also doing Jackbox games. You know, so we thought we'd give you something even more. So follow us, first of all. Just go to coffee.com, ko-fi.com. Follow us at our account at ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. So you know when these things drop and you can be aware of what's going on. That's all. Yeah, we're talking about politics in the pre-show, which we'll never talk about on Squawking Dead, period, ever. So, even the last episode when I did my little preamble, not the last episode, the episode before where we're talking The Walking Dead World Beyond, I went into a little preamble about everybody, regardless of the outcome, we have to come together with unity. I turned it into a clip. I put it online. That's it. That's that. And it really isn't about politics, just about people having to learn together to adapt and not do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, trying to escalate or rage quit. Everybody's saying fuck AMC in the chat. I just love that. We can get behind something together.
Yay.
Let's get behind something with hate.
Mutual hate.
Mutual hate of AMC. First of all, have you guys noticed that Rachel has her little...
Shutter shades.
Shutter shades. Thank you. She's looking very stylish today.
Right.
What inspired you to look so stylish?
Oh, just trying to be cool like Huck.
You're not too cool for two Jules for cool, right?
That's right. I'm too cool for Jules, but I'm just the right amount of cool for Huck.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. It makes sense too.
Right? If you watch the show, it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. I'm seriously embarrassed.
So embarrassed.
Just to start off this episode right, everybody should know that this episode was directed by Michael Cudlitz.
Right?
First.
Yes.
Cool.
First thing I noticed.
He made some really cool choices, like near the end. This is the only noticeable real choice. Maybe we'll figure something out later, but love when Felix was talking to Tony Del Mato. When he was talking to him, he chose to actually show him through the passenger side mirror. While he was talking to Felix was in our view, facing him. Mm-hmm. But it showed Del Mato on the left of him because of the rear view mirror, and Del Mato is almost slightly off screen on the right. I thought that was a cool touch. If you notice it, when they're talking about the CRM and the truck and going into, it's like the most noticeable choice in terms of artistic license that he made, I think.
You are definitely going to be having to fill me in on a lot of the details. I only gave this episode one watch, and I haven't watched it again, and I definitely don't have any notes to go on. So this is going to be a really interesting episide.
Yeah. Also tell everybody why this will be even more interesting of an episode.
Because I'm drunk?
I didn't think you would just quite say it like that.
I was trying to hide it.
You did really well until one point when you said, you're going to have to do this. And I'm like, oh, what did Strand say? The mask the artifice falls and the mask drops.
What do my parents always say? I'm not slurring. I'm speaking in cursive.
Broken cursive. No, I'm not judging you, but what's going to make this episode really interesting is that sometimes it's good to be in a place like this, because then I will say something and then you will all suddenly remember something and it'll go, oh, like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm counting on.
And by the way, I want to mention something. I feel like I've always kind of wanted to, but not really, because I haven't really thought of how we would do this, is like, I've always wanted to have like a smoke out episode, and not really to cover like an episode of whatever Walking Dead property, but like just like one of those specials, like we all have like one toke of weed and then see where everything goes. Like, oh, we'll try to read news and it'll be like, I'll be like, oh, I'm reading this upside down, or
dude,
fuck
that's
the news.
That's every episode for me.
The truth comes out. God damn. You're talking to somebody who won't drink at work, because I'm so serious when it comes to
shit.
my time. I've never drank at work, and I never will.
Well,
so I take my job seriously.
I didn't drink at work either, but to be fair, I worked in an animal hospital, so I literally had lives in my hands. So you don't really want to drink and save lives. So I didn't drink at work either.
But you know how it is though. Like, let's say you're at the hairdresser. You're sorry, not the hairdresser. Let's say
I've definitely been drunk at that work. Oh yeah.
How am I supposed to get by? Come on, Dave. Come on, son. Let's get real here. Oh God.
Yeah, there are some haircuts you just need to get wasted after.
Okay, so let's talk about the intro sequence, because it felt like an intro sequence, right?
It was
the shadow puppet scene.
It was so cute. It was so pretty. Yes, it was beautiful.
I mean, I literally, like, after it was done, I'm like, is this the new intro sequence?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause so far they haven't had one, per se. They would have the logo, The Walking Dead World Beyond,
right, but
on
it was
situations.
Right?
Yeah, and technically they did that here too, but they did it in such a way where Iris has her little voiceover with the same shadow puppet scene that we see at the end. But I love how, like, it was touching. Like, when we were watching it, it wasn't nearly effective as when we saw it at the end of the episode. Like, when we saw at the end of the episode, there's context, there's the idea of sameness, the idea of how we're all trying to look at what happened and know the same facts about what happened, and yet we all have to deal with it in different ways, or we're trying to deal with it different ways.
I gotta say, the one thing I didn't like is that Iris did her voiceover at the beginning, but then we didn't hear anything at the end. And I realized, we should have just remembered what Iris said in the beginning. And I was trying to, but I felt like the end would have been so much more impactful if we sort of heard that story again, even if it was coming from
Tony Delmato.
I would have liked to hear that story again as everyone was sort of watching it, because I was trying to remember what Iris said, and I couldn't remember everything.
Well, it was very matter of factly. That's the thing,
right? So, I would have enjoyed
like,
hearing the narrative along with the story, the shadow puppets again.
I thought it was way more powerful without it.
See, Sharon D saying it made me cry at the end. And for me, there was a disconnect. I would have cried. I would have cried had I heard that story again. But I was too busy trying to remember what Iris said instead of focusing on what's going on.
This is something that I was talking about with you, and I can't remember if it was pre-show or during an episode, but I was worried because we're watching 2 episodes a week in order to break these things down. My worry was that when I watch it the first time just to enjoy it, I'm worried that I'm overanalyzing the episode, not just taking the time to actually enjoy the episode. And so I didn't feel that way, because I didn't want to have to go back or like do this or do that. Be like, oh, I want to compare this scene to the last scene. Like, I don't want to start in my head psychologically saying, oh, no, now I want to hear back the beginning, what she says here, compare it to here. I just want to let it unfold. And like, if you just watch it and you realize what happens in this episode, like, oh, why are they so different? Why is this group, Percy and Tony, different than the kids in this? And you know why. But we also know what happens with people. Like, we are coming into this show knowing about the Walking Dead universe too, so we can't deny that. We know that people suck. People are, well, you know what? People are worse than suck in the zombie apocalypse. They can be killers. They can be this. They can be that. They're not friendly, whatever, the whole thing. So when we come into it, we're like trying to say, oh, how are they going to deal with people? This is something that I said 2 episodes ago, last episode. We haven't had people to deal with people. And so when it comes to that though, and you see what unfolds in this episode, and you see actually how it goes down, it makes me wonder that, like, the sameness of these 2 people, like, knowing how it went down, why, maybe not why it went down, but know what it was sort of like before, know what it definitely is now, and how we're all dealing with it, and how they find like this common ground of like, yeah, we all are in this now, whether we're together or not is a whole other story. But when they're actually looking at this scene, this idea of like, oh, we're all seeing this in the same way. It went down. People turned. Like the idea, like, I mean, what was even shown was like, okay, parents with their baby in a stroller, showing that the dog jumping up and down and yipping away in the park, and then seeing the traffic, the idea of like the everyday people stuck in traffic and having weekends, something that Ira says in the beginning. We take what Ira says and bring it to the scene.
Oh yeah.
But there's just more meaning to it, because by the end of the episode, the whole gang is kind of like wondering, are we ready for this? Yeah, I was expecting when we met people that they'd be desperate to kind of cooperate like us, like we're out here, we're used to having everybody kind of cooperate in this kind of religion of the campus colony of like where, we all have to pull together, kind of make a better future, but not everybody. They go out there and when they meet people now, they're going to see rampant independence, like, and not everybody's going to be the same as you. And yet everybody's the same as you.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to react in the same way in the world, but everybody is the same as you.
Yeah.
And in that sameness, they all kind of felt something together. Like they were all feeling the same way, but they're acting differently.
Sure. That last scene was so beautiful. I love what they did. So Tony and Percy go around doing this show for different communities, right? And that's how they make an income, or how they survive.
Or different people they run across. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So this is say, hey, here's what we have to offer, in exchange for whatever you can provide for us. Okay. So with that being said, I had a lot of things going through my head in that last scene. One, this was absolutely beautiful. I loved it. It was gorgeous. Just what people need. I mean, you don't have movies, so this is the next best thing, right? Two, I wanted to hear the story from the beginning again. I personally, I just wanted to hear it again. Even, like I said, even from Tony, because it's his show, right? Third, I thought, holy shit, they're going around and spreading this message to people. This is effing depressing.
Yeah, it is.
Like, who, and we see everybody like getting emotional watching this too. And I'm like, who's going to pay for this show? This is terrible.
Before they actually show the shadow puppet show, you have like a little moment where, everybody's like kind of distraught. Like they don't know what to make of what they just experienced. Everybody's all over the place. Who do we trust in this world? I don't know who to trust in this world. They have this like come to Jesus moment where it's like, oh, this wasn't at all what I thought it would be. I thought it would just be us versus the zombies. Like basically Rick's thing is like, look, it's us versus them. We have to come together, because if we don't, we're all dead. We're all going to fall prey to the rot and the and the decay out there. And it's just the way things go. Like you're fighting this battle on two sides. Why don't we just fight it on one side and survive this thing? How 2020 of him. So Silas says to Felix, some people make it so easy starting over, right? But at the same time, they had it so easy. Their community had done the starting over ahead of time. And it's funny how his comment is so weird.
I like that it's Silas saying that too.
Yeah.
It's important that that's coming from Silas.
Because he doesn't, he's in this spot where he just doesn't feel like he has this beginning. He never started.
Right. Well, and I don't think Silas considers the apocalypse starting over. I mean, they were so young at the time. Like for him, starting over is everything that happened after his dad died.
Right.
That for him is starting over. And
right.
Whoever Percy is makes it look so easy.
Right. Exactly. The irony of Percy having lost his parents also, and also being taken care of by his uncle.
Yeah. So
Marco
if anything,
Voce.
Silas should really relate to Percy.
Yeah, and maybe he does. That's the thing. I think there is part of it where he kind of just lets it go. I mean, you see this a little bit obviously he doesn't know everything about Percy at the time, but there is a maturity to him actually letting Iris go behind Wilma's closet. I think it was the little clothing store that they go up and where Percy and Tony do the con with the walker and the bathtub and the room with the cigarette.
I missed the name of it.
It's like Filene's basement, Daiquiri Town instead of Margaritaville. That's kind of cute. So he says that, and then Iris says to Hope, "I wish I knew which part of him was the lie and which part was real." Mm-hmm. But Hope gets it again. Yeah. Hope gets it in the beginning. Hope gets it at the end. Hope gets it basically throughout, and I'm here for it. I'm very here for it because she says it's because of her past, you know, which Iris now knows. He's the same as us. Yep. We all have parts. And you think she wouldn't understand Percy. By the way, this is the thing that I like the most, is that for all her not really trusting Percy, she gets him because she sees like that this is what they decided to do to get by. And so she continues, we all have parts that we want people to see and parts of us that we try to hide. It's all real. And then the thing starts. The show starts. And what does the show depict? What they actually want you to see. What these con men actually want you to see. Their feelings. The things that they really can't tell you. Yeah. You know? And that's what made me really sad, is that this is their show. They're the ones who put it on. Well, you may be watching this and thinking, oh, I love what the art department did on this show. Oh, that was a really good sequence. But you have to, and it's easy to kind of write that off as like, oh, the show did such a great job with the sequence. But you really have to kind of lock yourself back in and realize Tony and Percy had cut out these shapes and they put the strings together to put all this up because they wanted to build something to make people feel something. They wanted to show what they thought of the world. And what's weird about it, as you watch the sequence, they are the same. They are seeing the world in the same way. They knew kind of how it was before it fell. They knew the idea of weekends, travel, planes, you know, all these things. They also know how horrible it is out here. But they also, as they're venturing out in the world, they see the beauty in the most unexpected places. You know, the plants growing out of the walkers becoming one with trees, the beauty in unexpected places, like which is what that flower is supposed to be meant to be.
All the pictures sort of that Elton's capturing right now. That's the beautiful elements out there.
Yeah, like take for example, like the snakeskin, which is something that Nisa brought up. Yeah. Sorry, not Nisa, Sharondy. Sharondy says the snakeskin Elton sees at the beginning of the episode is also a Huck Finn reference. I mean, which is they're going through all the Huck Finn references now. Let's just get out of the way, and David has to come back to, you make my job hard. Huck and Jim both are both superstitious, and the snakeskin is super bad. It's a super bad omen to the point that they feel that their misfortune further ahead is due from the snakeskin.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very cool reference. I attributed it more to Percy isn't the only one pretending to be someone other than Elton's mom's killer. Hope. Mm-hmm. So like, this is what I attributed the snakeskin to, which is kind of like, I mean, look, you can have double meanings, obviously, you know, these things both are true. The Huckleberry Finn and the Tom Sawyer references are going to be all over the place. What do you make of Hope's behavior throughout this episode?
Well,
towards
I think
Elton specifically.
Oh, towards Elton. Oh, she is atoning. She's atoning.
I agree on a surface level, obviously, because it looks like she's trying to go through it.
I don't think she plans on telling Elton the truth. I think she's just going to go.
Looked like she got close though, right?
It did. It did look really close. And I'm going, no, not yet. You haven't talked to Iris. Don't do it. Not yet. I really want her to talk to Iris about it first. I do think that Elton deserves to know. Oh, that is going to be an awful conversation. No matter how it goes, it's going to be awful. And so she's going to do what she can to make up for it. And in her mind, finishing this manuscript is atoning for that.
Okay, that's cool. I like what you said just there. I think this is why I want to keep analyzing this sort of situation, because it really does go back to what you said in the initial episode, which was Hope is a little psycho. Boop, 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 boop. But it makes you think. Like, I like to see these things
from your eyes.
Well, see, that's the thing. I like to see these things from your eyes because you were the one who said it first, really, and have stuck with it. I've kind of moved away from that. I've definitely moved away from that position. Look, I'm always on the watch for it, obviously, right? This is what I have to do. But I'm gonna fall on some end of the scale at some point on a certain position of what I may think is going to happen or what I may think is going on. Mm-hmm. And when I see all this, I see somebody who's really trying to ultimately assign the value of her actions. Like, basically, the only thing I thought of at the end of that was is Hope trying to figure out the meaning of what a life is or the value of a life. Because when she sees Elton go through this and describe what his mom means to her, and actually what's weird is how it's almost like torture porn. Like, she is inviting this, and the more she invites this, the more she's realizing that, oh my God, Amelia meant as much to Elton as maybe exactly her father means to her.
Yeah.
And the connections are so, up until the point where Elton says, oh, I met your dad. He read my mom's work, loved it, encouraged me to write the notes in it, which is the thing that almost gets her to admit to him that, oh, I killed your mom.
Sorry.
I killed your mom.
Sorry. Oops, my bad.
I'm so embarrassed. embarrassed for you? God,
My bad.
That would be funny, not funny.
Ugh.
Yeah, right. That's what really gets me is that like I feel like she is not running away, which I really like. Again, the sign of maturity. Like I feel like she's really not trying to run away from this thing, which makes me think she's not a psycho. Which makes me think she's like Morgan's all life is precious sort of thing. And I just want to know how precious it is, or maybe like okay, let's play the devil's advocate here. Like maybe she knows or feels like there's a part of her that could be a killer without thinking, and she's just trying to prevent that from taking hold. She's trying to assign a value to that and trying not to fall into this inclination, this dark inclination, and hoping that that alone will help her stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stop her from being that. So I'll play both sides of this. That's fine. But her trying, which is the only thing we can really ever do, trying to assign value to a life she helped end is atonement, but I think it's more than that. There's something where like, if there's even a chance for me to make up for things like Dwight, let's say, like, you know, working under Negan, then I have to do all the good I can. And if that means I try to do everything I can for Elton, maybe that'll count for something.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's like if Dwight had somehow come back to TWD and had to deal with Daryl again.
Oh.
He's hoping that let's say after finding Sherry, just what we know now, what we know right now. Oh, I found Sherry. Let's go back to TWD and talk to Daryl. See, Daryl, I did good. I met a bunch of people and I helped them find each other and you know, all this stuff. And I'm trying to do good out here. What do you think? And Daryl be like, fuck off. We just beat a skinheaded lady and you know, with her skinwalker people, and we barely survived the whole thing. Hilltop went down with the fight. Like, I don't have to deal with you right now. Be like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I'll go.
What if that happened? What if Dwight showed up back up on The Walking Dead and Daryl just shot him right there on the spot?
Yeah.
I told you, if I ever saw it again, I'd kill you. And he does.
Yeah.
And here we
Yeah.
are, like, we've seen everything that he's been through and how much he's changed, but Daryl hasn't.
Or actually, well, no, Daryl's changed a lot in those 6-year time jump.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Plus-
talking to Negan, so that's something.
Yeah. So if Dwight does come back into the picture, what does he do, right?
Oh man, I don't
And
know.
with Sherry, he'd be with Sherry arm in arm. Like, see, I did what you said, and you know, 6 years. I think it's like a prison sentence. I always think of time in terms of a prison sentence.
Okay.
Like, okay, 6 years, 5 years. What does that change? You know, how does it change somebody? And you hear that it changes a lot, you know, in isolation or whatever. And so I can imagine like it would change Daryl, and I can imagine that like if Dwight ever had to come back, that's what he'd have to deal with.
Give him a dog food sandwich, Sharon says. Yep. That would be fair.
Give
would be
Daryl for old time's sake.
Make Dwight eat a dog food sandwich. That just seems fair.
We're even now.
Yeah. Here, eat this. We'll call it that.
Here's 14 dog food sandwiches. Eat 2 a day for the next week. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
I would do it to get Daryl on my side again. Seriously.
I mean, he did it, so
heartbeat.
Yep.
It's better than all the other. It's better than all the whole grains and fruits and vegetables. Like I'll take a little unprocessed meat.
Yep. Is this it?
or heavily processed meat.
Give me it all. I'll take it all.
Yeah,
Deserve it.
yeah. I'll put on a grill, a flat top grill, and make dog food burgers. No problem.
If I gave Eric
Easy.
some dog food, he could make it taste good.
I've seen, and I'm like, can you divorce Rachel and marry me?
I heard you that you proposed to my husband.
I just said marry me. All I said was marry me. Give me what you've got with Rachel, because
Right?
I want your food right now. Yeah,
Such a
Sharon
good
with you. Yeah, Sharon with the dad joke. What do vegetarian zombies eat? Grains. Ancient grains.
That's awesome.
I also want to get this one out of the way because Sharon had also said the 2 con men are a Huck Finn reference. Huck and Jim pick up 2 con men who do progressively more awful cons until they eventually have enough and they ditch them, which is interesting because you'd think that this episode is technically over and they're on their side and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like we're not done with them just yet.
The Percy and Tony, no. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I feel like there's still maybe more in store.
I hate saying that about Tony Tony because, okay, first of all, as soon as he introduced himself as an illusionist, I immediately fell in love with Tony. I do not want him to be a bad guy. I don't know if you know this. We talked about it. My dad, when he was alive, was a magician. That was his profession. So when I saw Tony on screen doing tricks that I know how to do, I felt an immediate connection to Tony, and I don't know what is in store for him. And but yeah, this is what I'm
doing for you. I'm going to do this for you and be like,
I know. I'm not. My hopes are not high. But man,
because of the world we're in. I mean, your dad might have done the same.
Honestly, I mean, knowing.
But your dad didn't have a Vegas residency, though.
He did not. He didn't have the chance, but he would have. I'm telling you, if my dad was alive in the age of America's Got Talent and all of these TV competition shows, you would know who my dad was. Everyone would know who my dad was. Everyone in Michigan knows who my dad is.
Really? Okay,
yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool that you bring that up because this episode does obviously deal with two illusionists and confidence men. I guess the illusionists have to become confidence men, and it deals with mentalism. It has to deal with a lot of these things, but people have to, these people have to actually push you into believing one thing. Sleight of hand, which I've been spelling wrong the whole time. Sleight of hand is spelled SLEIGHT instead of SLIGHT.
Right.
I have to remember that for next time. Which you can't blame me, I suppose, right? But it's the whole idea of making the audience, let's say, or your mark believe one thing, even if that thing. And again, this is not a matter of dumb people versus they only fool dumb people. No, the whole idea is that like it almost seems as though the smarter you are, the deeper into the con you get, because here you are trying to figure out how it's done while the trick is being done off screen over here, and all of a sudden a coffee cup appears. So.
Right.
So it's almost worse for people who think they're smart. This is something that I wanted to bring up because
smart people try harder.
Yeah, they try harder to figure it out. They try look in the one because in a way they deal in a world of honesty and truth. They believe in what they see and what.
When they're told to look right here, they look right here and they go, all right, what's there? What am I looking at? What am I focusing at? And they're not paying attention to this. This is where the magic happens. Exactly.
Right behind you, the sleight of hand. And we'll get into this more, but I wanted to actually say something out loud, and that's one of the dearest mentalists and illusionists that I admired so much, because he spoke about the ills of mediums are really just mentalists who are trying to fish the crowd to find out certain facts about them based on body movements, based on different tells that they have that they can lock onto and then guess certain things, with a certain level of probability. And then if barring that, they try to push a willing participant into thinking that they've figured out the answer, like calling a person's name and then saying it sounds like Mike. It sounds like Mark. Maybe it's a Mark. No, it's Matthew. It's like, yes, Matthew. That's it. Yes, I was thinking that exactly. Right. This is like the sleight of hand going on.
I got to tell you something incredibly hilarious right now. You know what my dad's name was? What my dad's name is? Mark.
Did I guess on the first one?
You said Mark. Mark was the second name you said.
Yeah. So he's telling me he loves you.
But that's a perfect example of what happens, right?
But you should divorce Eric so that Dave can marry him? Did he not like him that
That's what much? I'm hearing. I'm getting...
And also bring Eric on the line. He has something to say to him. I hope you guys are very happy. I love Rachel a lot, but I hope you guys are very happy together because Rachel has another person in store. Okay, anyway, who cares? Rachel's in love with Dave's wife? What? Anyway, so
I do love
that. I wanted to go back to that because one of my most admired conjurers, the amazing Randy, passed away recently. Aww. And I was just in love with that man because he spoke about the ills, the rampant ills of mediums and dowsers, people who use dowsers to find water, all this hokery like homeopathic healing and all this stuff, because it's all a con. It is all a long con to get money from your pockets without regard regard to people's psychology, that regards to people's finances, with regards to people's mental health and physical health, people dying from these fake cures or fake remedies. He was very outspoken to people who wouldn't listen. I felt near the end of it, because the fact that most people I'm talking to right now, hopefully, and listening to me right now, I feel like the amazing Randy, because I feel like we talk a lot, but nobody listens. But those who are listening right now, if you don't know who the amazing Randy is, look him up and watch any one of his videos. He's a charming man who speaks. He's just a very, very potent speaker, excellent speaker, and he makes so much sense. And when you actually start to listen to him, you start to realize how one of the biggest things in his talks is saying how, like, you, and you, and you, and you, the scientist, the rocket scientist, the doctor, the pharmacist, the psychologist, the evolutionary biologist, you all will fall prey to this because you don't know what a conjurer knows about these things. We've studied the conjuring arts for so long. We know the tricks. We know where to look for the con. He actually had the $1 million challenge, which was to test people with these claims, of these extraordinary claims, against a certain battery of tests so that they can actually prove them wrong. He's even made fake tests to actual scientists in the name of this experiment. He's actually said, we can bend any spoon, we can do this, we can do that. We can foil any test. And they've done it because of all these different hoops they've had to go through to make sure that their conditions are met in the test, in spite of all the tests that they said to all the conditions that they were trying to make. So this is the thing, like, just to prove the point that we can fool the smartest of scientists, and which is to say that we can help you. We can help you figure out what, like the FDA, we can help you figure out to actually ban these products because these are only harming people. I just wanted to say that out loud because as we see in this episode, we see many different tricks being employed by Percy to try to get these people to steer these people in a particular direction that he wants them to go ultimately. But why I mention the amazing Randy is that something that Percy said is that we do this so that nobody gets hurt, but maybe he hasn't realized how hurt these people were. They're so used to doing the con, like most mediums do, or quote unquote mediums. They do all these things to kind of make people feel better, let's just say, ultimately, but then they leave them more empty later on, because at the end of the day, they haven't really been communing with their loved ones. They haven't really been doing this. They're just pouring money into this emptiness that will never get filled. In worst case scenario, they're pouring money into remedies that don't cure them or don't relieve them of their symptoms, that sort of thing. And so in the same way, Percy and Tony, they end up leaving these people and they might have caused their death, with all the has-beens. Perfect name for for walkers. Has-beens. Once were has-beens. I love showbiz speak.
All the different names for the walkers. I love it.
But it's like, that's one I didn't see coming.
Yeah, the has-been.
You know what I mean? Like, because they call like old illusionists that can't seem to drum up a crowd has-beens, and it's just so, the fact that it's so particular and so specific to them. Yeah. Like, we're not them. Maybe we were once wers, but we're not has-beens. And like, then the idea of The Walking Dead as people, it's like, oh, are we the has-beens? I mean, we were a civilization, so we're just a bunch of has-beens right now. So there's a lot of play on words going on here, which I kind of like. We start in this episode where we left off in the last episode with seeing Percy in the woods coming out with his little fake toy rifle / tree branch, saying, "Don't make me shoot you! Don't make me shoot you with my tree branch." Which it kind of looked like. But then when Felix comes up behind him with his gruffy voice, and he goes, "Elton Silas, check the perimeter, see if he's got friends. Iris, search him." I just love the continuation, the voice, of that fake ass, gruffy voice.
Well, he's got to tough now. There's a potential enemy in their midst, right?
Yeah, or serious. This is a serious moment. I have to be very serious.
So
Felix.
What I didn't like about that moment, and okay, we can attribute this to inexperience, right? He said their names. I was upset that Felix called everyone by name. He should have said, "Boys, check the perimeter." Right.
As a daughter of an illusionist,
or a cop. Cop, and my real dad was a magician. So yeah, you don't give people more information than they need. Information is power. So don't give it to them.
Right, exactly. And so, especially to a mentalist who is trying to figure out the lay of the land, who to push into which direction.
Sharon D is proving my point right now. Laura, Naomi, June, exactly.
Yeah, if I make him think I'm this person, then I can be this person, which is something which is interesting because she brings this up. Like, I was this person and I've been this person for so long. So who am I when now that I'm June again? You know, who am I now that I'm back to being, I'm supposed to be back to being me? Does he really know me? Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. She's been 3 different somebodies to our knowledge, not 16 different somebodies, Sharon D. The whole idea of like, now you're giving this mentalist, you know, more information, who to push and who to push onto whom too. As we find out, like in some ways, like seeing Hope be the cynical one makes it possible for him to push her. The thing that I like is when he talks about the bison thing, he's building up this narrative. He's a really good storyteller, by the way, oddly enough.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, like when he was telling the bison story, as the whole story goes, he's building up this idea that, oh, there's a herd coming. It's Wyoming in winter, 2 feet of snow. Unlikely. But anyway, if you've ever been to Wyoming, but I guess maybe it was winter and it was higher up on the plateaus. Who knows? But it was on an overpass. Also weird. And it's like a herd is coming. I could feel them rumbling beneath my feet. I couldn't see them. And I was just waiting. I couldn't get into any of the cars because they were frozen or rusted shut. So I got on top of a car and waited for the end, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. 200 bison on the overpass of the I-90. And then and everybody's falling into it. Like Elton's like, oh, 200 bison, that's fascinating. So now he's picked out the scientist person, the person who's interested in being more curious, right? He
goes over to the manuscript and immediately starts writing too. Elton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh.
And then, so we got that, but then so he's got that factor down, and everybody's, you know, into this. They're into, it doesn't even matter that he may be lying, but the story is so fantastic that people are into the story. People automatically trust stories because of their stories, right? So now that you've got them roped in, tell them something that one of them, and I know whom, because he knows already who's going to be the one that's going to check him.
Yep.
Tell them something that's a little bit cool, and these people here will get distracted. So I may be placing these 2 people in conflict with my story, telling them, oh, I was in Florida 2 weeks later, and you know, and I saw this Ferris wheel with, you know, no, not that it was destroyed, but it was being held by pelican nests. You know, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Hope is the first one to chime up and go, hey, that's not possible. It took you 2 weeks to get to Florida. Like,
it sounds more like Huck.
Well, they are mother and daughter, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I like that Hope was the one that called him out too. Like, yeah, pal, that doesn't track. Try again.
But he knows that she's going to be the one to speak up too.
Do you think so? I almost feel like he's told this story so many times and no one's called him on it yet that he thinks he's going to get away with it again.
Well, it was required that somebody speak up. Otherwise he would have kept going and dumbing down the things until it was obvious that he's lying about one of these things, because he needs one of the people to be highly critical of him so that so that she can fake call him out. She can call him out on it.
Okay.
And then he can bring up another story about, like, that's impossible. You must have had a car, right? That's what I was getting to. And so he's like, that's the thing, right? That's the thing that you can't replace, right?
Right.
And like, he'll be like, you got it out of me, right? This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Let me give you like a story. Then I'll pretend to drop the lie just so you can ask me about the truth. And then I can give you the truth, but misdirect, because he gives them the truth. Technically, he says, we found a truck, you know, Mike, Tony and I, had skidded off the road that was filled with like fuel. As like a refueling truck. And the guy that was in there once was, but now has been, you know, right before, you know, we took the keys off him and everything like that, you know, and we decided to take it with us. Well, I guess they robbed me and then they left me behind, that sort of thing. They're in Andersonville, blah, blah, blah. So he tells him like some of the truth to kind of really reinforce the story, but then, you know, it continues on with the con of saying that these guys left me behind. It's always good to also mention like a fake person so that you can misdirect for the real person, Tony. Mike is just the walker in the bathtub. So do you see how that kind of all went down? This is
Yeah.
everything that he wanted them to believe. Like,
Yep.
you look here, then I'm going to make you look here and pretend that you caught me.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't catch me because I wanted you to find me here so that you can go here.
That's the best way to con somebody, is to make them believe you've been caught. That's always part of a grift, is the fake out.
That was one of the Amazing Randy's best tricks too, is to make you believe that you actually found him out, but then he'll come up from behind being like, but did you notice this? It's a card with demons on it. I don't, whatever, conjure stuff.
You do this to me all the time during our shows. You'll say stuff and then I'll say something and you'll go, haha, see, I made you say it.
Oh, because do you remember what I actually did? I went like this, and then I was like a fishing pole, and then I reeled you in because I wanted to just. You
know just how to drop those sinkers for me, and I bite every time.
I'm a salmon out of water. But yeah, it's all to say that we're all, and I like to reinforce this idea is that, like, listen, we're all the same. We all have seen the same episode. We all just so we got different things out of it. But if I can lead you down a garden path towards a specific direction that I want you to go, maybe I can get you to see my point of view at least. Doesn't mean that like everybody has to think the way I do, but I try to look at things as they were intended to be seen, right? Yeah. And then I kind of tilt, like tilted tripod. Sarah. I try to tilt the tripod just a little bit this way so I can see it a different way. And then I'll just leave the scene and then look up what I saw on Wikipedia and try to come back to the scene with that info and be like, oh, that's interesting.
I would change just one thing about that. I don't think that you don't just tilt the tripod, you flip it upside down.
What would this look like upside down?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're like a surgeon dissecting these episodes and pulling the heart out and pulling out the spleen and then connecting the intestines to this part of the stomach wall. And seriously, yeah. You'll take what we see and flip it completely upside down, because I feel like I watch shows very much on the surface. Like, I see and pay attention to what's right in front of me.
You're the best mark.
Well, and I try to pick up on like consistencies or inconsistencies, facts. You know what I mean? Like, I try to say like, okay, this person said this during that part and they were talking to this person, but I don't always. Sometimes I'll go into more like, well, what does that mean? But that's you. Like, that's you all over. Like, yes, here's the scene. Here's how we saw it. But what does that mean?
Well, as a matter of fact, you want to talk about meaning? Let's go to these people's names, because what's interesting so Sharon brought this up last week, which is Percival means pierces the valley. Now, I was looking at that and being like, no, and genuinely, I don't consider myself a smart person, but I have the ability to reason. So when I see pierces the valley, I don't automatically assume I know what that means. So I'm like, dummy, what does pierces the valley mean? Because what does that mean? Like, oh, what, he goes, boop? No. So like, I wanted to know exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
So it is French/Norman. What that really means is that these people in particular, one that pierces the valley. The valley is a very narrow approach to a fortified area, which is a very good place to be when it comes to defending yourself, because you're not in an open area, with four walls. You're in a valley with like, kind of like the way the dam was, what Morgan's dam, his safe place.
Okay.
Isaac and Rachel's place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like this narrow area with a high natural border that makes it so people can only attack from one direction, right?
Sure.
So
okay.
So a Percival, one that pierces the valley, means he breaches these defenses. He's such an expert that he breaches defenses.
Perfect.
So this is the meaning of Percy. He will find a way to breach your defenses.
Yeah.
Perfect. I really, really like that. The only thing that I could find on Delmado, though, was something in numerology, which counted up to teacher or confidence. What is Tony by the end of his? What is present day Tony but a confidence man, a con man? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool. So Charity's pulling out some other facts. So she's saying the closest Andersonville to the Mississippi is in Indiana. Indiana. Isabella's from Indiana.
So they made it from Nebraska to Indiana?
I don't think so just yet, though, right?
Well, I mean, if they're in Andersonville, right?
I guess, yeah, maybe. But it seems like Mississippi, Missouri. I mean, I guess it's possible, I suppose. Yeah, they cross the Mississippi. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I'm pulling
Yeah,
up
there
the
is
map
that,
right now.
yeah. No, it is definitely possible. Because I remember going down to St. Louis. My buddy Tony's from Fairview Heights. So it's right near St. Louis. And it's not a very long drive. So I guess.
So, okay, if they were in Nebraska, they had to have gone through either Iowa or Missouri, then Illinois, then Indiana.
Right, exactly. And Sharon D actually mentions that, they crossed the Mississippi, and Iris said they've been on the road for a month. So that makes sense.
Oh, I missed that. I missed that time reference.
I missed it too.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, after a month, absolutely. They could cover that amount of ground in a month.
Yeah.
For sure.
Being very careful along the way, sure. Not like Morgan, just running across several states. Making it to Austin in a week. She was talking to Percy at the time. Okay.
They're pretty much more than halfway to New York. About halfway. They're halfway to New York right now.
I wouldn't even say that.
No, they are.
Would you?
I just looked at the map. Yeah.
Oh.
They're halfway to New York. Because here's Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. That's the only, they've traveled three states. They have three left.
I remember that route very often, by the way. I used to drive back and forth from New York City to Chicago a lot. I used to, because I went to school there.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you would know.
Yeah,
what is that time?
It's 1,200 miles, and it can take up to like 14 hours because of rest. But I
was going to say, to drive
a straight shot is 11 and a half hours.
Oh, like not stopping? Not
stopping at all. Not even for gas.
Okay. From where I'm at to New York is a 14-hour drive. But I have to go from Michigan all the way to the bottom, then over. So
yeah, exactly.
I have like an extra half a state there.
Yeah, you have to get down to I-80.
Ohio first.
Yeah. And then cut across.
Right.
I could probably get to where you are shorter time, by the way.
I mean, the way I drive, it would probably take about 2 hours.
Although, listen, after a while, I over the years, I thought I got this shit down. I'm good. I can do this on my head.
Yeah.
I remember like doing this more recently, like last couple of years or something like that. And I remember like, I'm getting older. I'm getting more tired on these roads. It took me like 13 hours, 14 hours.
I need a break.
I need to take a break. I need to actually stop, not do anything, perhaps snooze a bit, and then move on. So if there's only one bit of advice I can ever give you, because cars can go a lot longer these days, in terms of mileage, right? When you stop for gas, stop for food. Just take a fucking mental break. When you get back behind the wheel, you'll feel a lot more mentally fresh, and you'll pay attention more. You'll have energy in your system. That's the best advice I can give you.
How that works.
For those who think they got this shit down. Okay? Don't be like young Dave, just constantly burning gravel. One of the things I actually really liked about the final stroke to get them to come along is that he puts the finishing touch on the con, right? I say like Percy, like all mentalists, is trying to get hits on what these people are like. And then he hits on something that everybody will get, after trying with each person, right? The buffalo for Elton, the pelican's nest, and catching his lie. You got Hope playing against Iris. Iris was obviously the optimist because he sees that right away. Okay. And then he says one thing in particular, and he goes, some things can't be replaced, right? And because everyone's lost someone, right? And it doesn't even matter that what he's talking about is the truck, right?
Right.
Everyone's lost someone. Some things can't be replaced. And it hits all of them all at once. The dominoes are all fallen. Oh no, there's a new hashtag that Charity's just put up.
Wait, that's a joke though, right? You're not are you really pushing for Percyrus?
Yes, he's really pushing for Percyrus.
Really? Okay.
Oh no, you're not joking. No, that's what you're doing.
Joking. She's joking.
She conned us. Sharon just conned us.
Percy's adorable. He's got the dimples. Blah blah blah. But he's not somebody you can trust. I don't think he's going to be anybody that you can trust. I'm sorry. Right now, Percy is just outside of the Strand box for me.
Ooh.
I mean, he's on the outside, but when you meet somebody under these circumstances, you can't though, right? You would be a fool to trust this person.
Well,
given everything that just happened. Anyway.
Given everything. Oh my God. She just did hashtag per strand.
Per strand.
Well, he's a little young, don't you think? Ooh, take it back. Take it back.
I don't know how old do you think? Anyway, but I'm just saying, under the circumstances that we meet these people, I would not be quick to trust them. Would you?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's you and me. That's the difference. One of the things that Iris, I think, brings up, right? Yes, Iris brings up to Percy is that we lived in this bubble, where in relative safety. And she recognizes that, like, okay, meeting you, the idea of danger, like, because I want to take you back to the beginning of the episode when Felix tells Elton and Silas to check the perimeter. They hesitate for a little bit. Mm-hmm. When he tells Iris to pat down Percy, so many names, she hesitates a little bit. This is something I was talking about in the other episode, the last episode and the episode beforehand. It's like they haven't had to deal with people and the possibility that people might be dangerous. Felix knows, Felix definitely sort of knows. Doesn't know how much, because obviously he's giving him a little rope, right? I
would agree with that. Mm-hmm.
But they hesitate, and I am glad they did. It indicates that they're acknowledging the fact that it's people, and we didn't know that people could be the thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so going back to Iris and Percy's conversation, and also let's keep in mind that Percy's seeing all of this. He's seeing, obviously, these people have been in this community bubble or something like that. Why are they acting like this way? We're all shitty. All of us are shitty. We're all shitty. Right. Obviously, that's why I'm conning you right now. You're shitty. Ultimately, people are the same. No, so I want to pick up on something that Percy says, but like, let me go back to him and Iris. She says that we lived in a relative bubble. He's like, yeah, you can get killed out here, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think like all of this goes to feed his illusion, his thing about people. Like, and of course, people are ultimately the same, which is Percy's view. But at the end of the day, the thing that I want to tie into the illusionists and everything is that these people think that they're doing good. They're bringing people some comfort, blah, 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 etc. Some sort of excitement, some sort of story. But ultimately, Percy and Tony choose their marks carefully. They're not going to choose violent people. These are people on the margins. You want to pick people that will accept the con and actually wholeheartedly accept the con. He chooses people that do kind of want to help. They don't want to choose people that are utterly against him from the beginning. People like Tony and Mike, the people he's describing. Because he'll find out from the way he's telling the stories or who these people were immediately, who he's dealing with. Yeah, they should have left you punk ass bitch. And they'd be like, and he'll find a way to peace out, right? But if he deals with people long enough and he talks to them long enough, he'll figure out exactly whether he's in the right situation. Because at the end of the day, he's choosing people that are, which may be most of the people he's come across. He's choosing people, listening to their conversations at the campfire and figuring out if these are susceptible people. At the end of the day, what's odd about Percy and Tony's situation is that he's choosing people that are kind of good, but ultimately, when pushed hard enough, it'll make them choose themselves over possibly getting killed. Meaning, when Percy goes up the stairs and he goes, no, Mike, no. And then he pretends to, he's shot, right? Most people, when they have the opportunity, will flee because it's the apocalypse. It's your life. They will flee. Iris doesn't do that.
I was telling her to run.
Yeah. Take your shit and run.
Yeah.
Right. But you realize that what Percy does to actually twist that even further, twist that dial for them to leave a little further is just before Iris and he are about to leave. What does he do? What does he see? They've got the keys. They can go.
His stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's that little bit of a push left? He says, not only am I going to get my stuff,
I'm going to take theirs too.
Right. That's the dial. Because all this time he's feeding them something that just can't be replaced, hitting on that emotional note. But then what happens? He wants Iris to think he's a shitbag just a little bit, right? Just
by taking their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so that when it all goes down, she'll feel like a little bit more entitled, because let's just take people at their word, you and me, and realize that I think most people have good intentions, but if you turn into the person that they can be like, oh, this person isn't what I thought he was. He wasn't well intentioned. Maybe just a little bit or just enough that when this thing all goes down, she's more than happy to leave and fend for herself because that little nugget in the back of her head. But even still, Iris goes up the stairs. And that says a lot more about Iris than it does about Percy. And Percy recognizes that. Yes, I know, exactly. But
it doesn't, to me, it doesn't say anything good about Iris. Not at this point. Not at this point. Because right now, she's acting out of emotion.
Right. Exactly.
Not thought or rationality.
Which is interesting because, like, you'd think even with dealing with Percy having lied to her face
Mm-hmm.
about everything along the way that she would cut and run. And, you know, she does feel that way by the end. She feels betrayed, you know, even though they came back to save her. She feels terribly betrayed. She feels decimated.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you, because I was yelling at Iris the whole time. I knew right from the previews that I was going to be mad at Iris this episode. I just didn't anticipate how much I was going to be angry with her. But the moment that we think Percy is shot, right? No, Mike, don't. And then boom, boom, boom. And she's like, oh, Percy, what the hell does she think she's going to do? What?
With the Triceratops horn?
What do you, okay, first of all, if this actually happened, if it really went down that way, Percy's dead. So now you're going to run back up the stairs with the Triceratops horn to fight somebody with a gun? Moron. That just was not smart.
Imagine how Felix would feel about that, especially after having mentioning, by the way,
kicked her ass.
Her walker ass.
Yes.
Because that's what she'd be.
Yep. He'd have had to put her walker ass down because that's what would have happened.
And it's kind of funny how you put that, because, you know, we're just coming off the heels of like Alaska, you know, and Fear the Walking Dead about but you know what though? That's what makes this really, really interesting, because we also have to remember they're still teenagers.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
As upset as I get, I have to remind myself that this is the first time they've been outside these walls. They are teenagers.
That's two.
Yeah.
These are two different things. Yes.
Yeah. So I get angry and then I go, they don't know any better. This is how they learn. See, but that's because that's from our perspective. Mm-hmm. We're like pushing 40 / I'm over 40, right? And so this is the thing that we have to realize when we were kids. Oh man, you know what? We're not even going to go there, because what did you do when we were talking about John last week? When you were in John's shoes, you were like, "Fuck you, Strand. I'm gonna get myself killed in the name of this thing," right? Yeah.
But and I love that about you.
Yeah,
I really do love that about you. Like, I'm almost in tears because I'm not like that. And I want that for myself, but at the same time, like we both, you and me both kind of switch positions sometimes when it comes to these things. And it's good that we do,
makes it interesting.
Because we need to give everybody the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
We can't sometimes I will have to, and I've said this lately a lot more out loud than I do normally at all ever. So is that I sometimes have the unfortunate disposition of having to put myself in an opposing, or not an opposing necessarily, like a different viewpoint, because I have to defend that position, you know, like, because it's only the two of us and they're not there to talk on their behalf.
Right.
So I have to be like, so one would say blah, 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 blah. And I don't believe that position, but it is a valid one. Like, it is something that needs to be rooted out, to be spoken about. Right. But so going back to this instance, it's like, I guess they're teenagers. Like, I guess that's part of it. The bubble effect of being in safety and learning that part of the community's ethos, again, which is very important to re-mention, is that, you know, you're there, and the whole thing that keeps it together is this mythos of the night the sky fell, and the community coming together to build the future. How do we decide our fates? How do we form our fate? That whole thing with the karate thing. It
didn't really strike me until just now, but this group meeting Percy and Tony kind of reminds me of Rick meeting the Vatos for the first time, right? They put up this macho exterior, this, you know, I'm going to kill you sort of persona about them. But once you get to know them, it's like, okay, they were doing all this to protect an old folks home. You know what I mean? They're putting up this image of these tough guys, kind of like Percy and Tony are doing, right? They run these cons because that's how they survive. But really, you know, underneath it all, you know, they
feel the same way.
They're people too. Yeah, they're people too in the apocalypse, just getting by. This is just how they do it.
Yeah, and I like how like, you know, well, actually Sharon D really hits on like, oh, you know, we have to remember that Charlie was just a kid, you know, just like Charlie, she was a kid, you know, what did you expect? Yeah, thank God.
Charlie.
Yeah, inexperienced. And by the way, this is what's interesting, like why I keep mentioning the whole teenagers, or why we have to remind ourselves about teenagers, is that, you know, there are things that they do in this episode that are really awkward. Like, one of the things I noticed was after Hope was about to spill the beans about almost killing Amelia, and pulls back, she goes, oh, we better keep watch, you know, Elton. And then Elton kind of does this weird shuffle, like, yeah, I'm keeping watch. You could see it like in that wide shot in front of Wilma's closet. Like, he's like, I'm keeping watch. It's this little thing.
I wouldn't have picked up on this I would, right? I wouldn't have picked up on this if Eric didn't bring it up, but he actually saw, okay, so we see Hope showing interest in Elton and the manuscript and everything because of Amelia, right? She's trying to make up for or atone or whatever it is she's doing. But from Elton's point of view, Eric thinks that Elton is going to think that Hope has the hots for him. Like he will misinterpret this attention as a romantic interest instead of platonic.
Particularly in that scene.
Yes.
I feel like Elton reacts different ways each time this subject is 3 times.
Yes.
Each time the subject is, and the second time is like, yeah, I'm a macho Elton. I'm gonna look out for people. Yeah.
So Hopton.
Hopton.
Yeah.
Hashtag Hopton. Thanks, Sharon.
That would be cute. But yeah, I didn't notice that. Eric brought that up and I thought, oh man, poor Elton. He's going to get his heart broken so hard.
Poor both of them, man. What a crazy ass bitch. This is like the weird thing about like having to break this thing down is that technically, I mean, I say it in almost every episode, sleight of hand. Every episode is technically a con. Every episode is getting you to see things a certain way because we don't want you to see what's coming. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And it's never been more evident than this episode where we are actually talking about people who are experts in sleight of hand. Yeah. Lisa said it's just perfect. Elton, I'm not in love with you. I just killed your mom.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm so embarrassed for what you think I feel for you.
My bad.
Oh, terrible. All right, so going back to the whole situation with Percy and Iris actually going back up the stairs, it makes perfect sense given what we know about everything too. As it is, Iris is not Iris is not pushing 40 and knowing fully well what this universe brings.
To be fair, we've been in the apocalypse for 10 years now, right? We've been in it. We watch it.
I was going to say, no, we haven't. What world do you live in Michigan?
We live in the Walking Dead universe.
I know. Exactly,
we've been dealing with this for 10 years. They haven't.
Stop saying that. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I have a job, don't I? Hey, what? The apocalypse already happened. They were just told to tell us to stay at home.
That's right. That's how it starts. Everybody stay home. The coronavirus is out there. Coronavirus.
Yeah. The crown virus.
I'm kidding. I know it's real.
Charity's like, dude, totally I'm in North Carolina. I've been dealing with the apocalypse. No, you've been dealing with the second coming, apparently. in religious country.
The rapture?
The rapture.
Talking about the rapture?
That's exactly. Sorry, I'm not fancy ass Christian like you are.
Are you kidding? The rapture sounds amazing. Everybody's just gonna like disappear and fly up to heaven, except for me, because I'm gonna stay here and fight. I'm a warrior, so I won't be taken in the rapture.
I think the irony is that they'll take you anyway, and you'd be like, "Oh, you made a huge mistake."
Like, no, I have to fight. Send me back down there. I have to fight.
The tractor beam's gonna take you away. Oh man, the irony is that they would take the heathens away and probably leave the earth to the Christians. Be like, "Oh, you'll make this a better place, right?"
That's right.
Not that, again, this is not a judgment. It's just ironic, you know what I mean? Be like, here you go. Here's all the good stuff. You know, now it's all yours. We'll just take care of these. We'll give these people everything. It'll never. That would be the irony. You take the heathens away, give them everything they want, and they still won't be that satisfied.
Right.
It's Absolutely. Like in the Matrix. There's so many cool things that Percy drops that I go, oh, he's trying to push Iris into this whole, hero narrative. Like he's the hero. Because he says something like, well, while they're walking across the bridge in the forest and whatever, it's, you guys can get yourself killed, like living, you bubble people could get yourself killed. And he's just like, we're just trying to save our dad and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's why we fight so hard to live in it. And again, he's like pushing on the sense of like, ever since that, that incident with the bison and everything, I'm here for this, that sort of thing. And he hits Elton with that in a weird way. Like, that's why I'm here for this. Elton likes to live in the world and wants to see it through and all that stuff. I just love everything about this episode.
I like the line that, the conversation between Percy and Iris, and it was right about there. And she's like, he's telling her, you're not going to survive out here. And she's like, well, we crossed the Mississippi and I did this and that. So I think I'm doing just fine.
In a blazing inferno.
Yeah, in a blaze of glory. I think I'm doing fine, not with my little stick hiding in the woods. And then he says to her, he looks at her and he says, we'll see.
Yeah.
And even at that moment, I'm like, oh yeah, we are going to see, aren't we, Percy? Lion Percy.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Lion sack of
Ugh.
Percy.
He made it so obvious not to trust him, and she still did.
But that's the weird thing is if you hadn't seen the teasers in some way, like, would you have maybe, because I think ultimately when we see people automatically like look for us watching The Walking Dead, we don't want to trust anybody. But underneath all of that, there's a part of us that also wants to, and we eventually see this with everybody technically, even people we don't trust. Everybody is somebody we want to believe in, even though we don't initially trust them. This is something that mentalists hit on hard. They want you to dance. They want you to actually believe that nobody can be trusted. But then they'll build a narrative. They'll tell some stories like a hero's journey that person's been through to make you sympathize with them. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, all of a sudden you're trusting them. This is something we said about Dwight. You remember when you said, "I can't believe I'm feeling this way about Dwight. Yep. Can't believe I'm feeling this way about Negan." It's almost as if the show is actually acknowledging the fact that, oh, we did this to you. We made otherwise smart people believe that these shitty people are kind of awesome, like Dante. Like Dante, right?
Oh, Dante!
You almost had this like cognitive dissonance when you saw that he had turned into a turncoat.
Yeah. Well, I like that they flipped that whole thing on the comic people too. I mean, everybody who read the comics thought they knew. They thought they knew. They knew who Dante was.
Oh, Carol. Oh, yep. Carol.
Oh, then they were like, "Ha ha! Psych!"
Walking into the next episode was so rough. It was like, yeah, so Dante, yeah. So
Dante.
That was such a weird and awkward episode.
But yeah, they are always flipping shit on us. I mean, just when you think you got it figured out, they're like, "Ha ha ha! Just kidding."
Just kidding. He's actually a bad guy, or actually a good guy, depending on your outlook.
Right.
But we've been talking a lot about mentalism and sleight of hand and pushing people and making your mark and all that stuff. But a lot of this is based on psychology. And like the two big experiments that I want to bring up are Stanley Milgram's teachers versus learners experiment. But basically, he got a whole bunch of students to join this experiment where they had assumed they would be assigned learners and teacher roles. He wanted to see if negative reinforcement would actually encourage students, the learners, to actually answer correctly based on shock therapy, right?
Okay.
Or to be more compliant, whether they were more compliant or less compliant to shock therapy. In truth, the people he was recruiting were all teachers, and the experiment was really actually on testing the teachers to see if they would actually. He wanted to see if people were good. He had assumed his hypothesis was that more people were good, but he wanted to basically push these people to a point where they would actually do things that they didn't think they would do. The whole thing was to say, how was the Holocaust possible? I mean, how do you get people of generally good intentions to do horrible things that you never thought they would do on a different circumstance, right? And what he had found out was that there was something to the idea of an authority figure pushing somebody of good conscience merely based on the fact that he was an authority figure, he being the instructor, telling the teacher to push the learner. All this to say, okay, so let me just explain this experiment in full. So teachers were asked to administer increasingly severe electric shocks to the learner when questions were answered incorrectly. If at any point the innocent teacher hesitated to inflict shocks, the experimenter would pressure him to proceed. So just merely being the authority figure, not even like under gunpoint or any other sort of dire circumstance or like some sort of hierarchy of like, I'm your commander, you will do what I say. Not even that, just pressuring them, you should be doing this, right? Mm-hmm. So the results from the experiment were some teachers refused to continue with the shocks early on, despite urging from the experimenter. So that did happen. Like it's about 46% of the people, but it wasn't the norm. The norm was that 65% of the teachers were willing to progress to the maximum voltage level. Now, the people that were sitting in the chairs were all actors, and they did receive some shock, increasingly shock, but much tolerable, and it allowed them to actually give them a performance, which would influence the results in certain direction. So they gave them a sample group of different reactions, and different types of, they were instructed on how to act in any given moment. And each actor had a different way of going about it to see how that would affect the teacher. So nevertheless, the participants continued to obey, discharging the full shock to learners. So they got them to the point of doing something ultimately horrible. I remember one of the experiments, the actor actually stopped responding, meaning, they complained about their heart was hurting them. And then, they gave them the final full electric shock, and then they just stopped responding. And then they pretended like they had to shut the experiment down and take the teacher out and then whatever. This
person
seriously,
thought they had killed someone.
Yeah, exactly. Again, both the studies I'm going to mention right now, it just goes to show, first of all, the power of obedience, meaning a person in authority having the ability to push influence, and how people are influenceable. Snuggleable.
See, my words are spreading.
Are able to be influenced, just merely on that fact alone, on a level, right? Social psychologist Stanley Milgram researched the effect of authority on obedience. He concluded people obey either out of fear, which was his initial hypothesis, but he wanted to take a different route to see if the same conditions apply when it wasn't a fear-based influence, or out of desire to appear cooperative, even when acting against their own better judgment and desires. So people can be pushed. We know this now.
They can.
And it's kind of scary.
Yep.
This is why when I do this show, I always do this from the position of somebody who tries to shift their perspective to see things a different way. And this is an attempt. I'm not always going to be able to see what a given show is trying to do behind the veil.
Right.
You can only go so far.
There was an episode of, I believe it was Criminal Minds, where the episode was basically about what you just described. They had done that exact experiment, what you're describing. And so the unsub was in the teacher position, right? So they were the one administering the shocks. And what had ultimately happened was they also believed that they killed the subject. They stopped responding. They were, they went through all those motions. This person believed that they killed the subject. And so what happened was, after this test experiment, this person went back out into the world believing they were a killer. And so they became one.
Wow. This is kind of like what we said almost about hope, if you remember. Right?
Yes.
I just want to touch on that.
They made me realize I was capable of this. And so now I've realized that's who I am. But that was a scripted show. There was another show on Netflix called The Push, or just Push.
Yes.
I think you saw it.
Yeah. Oh, by I love this illusion. Darren Brown.
I'm not entirely sure. It was just one episode, and it was basically the power of influence to make someone murder another person, and they did.
Right.
Well,
Actor.
Well, they killed an actor. Yes, they killed an actor, but the person doing the murdering was the test subject.
Yeah,
they had no idea that it was fake.
Yeah, they had thought that they were justified in doing the killing.
Enough people told them that it was okay. They believed it.
Oh, they didn't they do the experiment on a bunch of people? And
yes.
Some did not do it.
Correct.
And you know what the funny thing was? I think actually one person only did it, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was sort of the focal point of the episode. The episode was basically about the person who actually pushed, and then at the end they sort of filter in the other, what happened to the other
to make us feel a little bit better about humanity. Because and that's the thing. I remember distinctly. This is Darren Brown, by the way.
Okay.
And what was really, really great about I've followed this guy forever, by the way. And what I really liked about it is when they didn't do it, and Darren came up, and he almost felt like it almost looked like he was so relieved and almost like in tears that I'm just so glad that this didn't work out. That you didn't do what we wanted you to do.
Right. Which is actually really what we wanted you to do.
Yeah. Because part of the experiment was to actually throw some weird imagery roadblocks also, like to kind of get the subject to not do it, but then push them. And again, they wanted to kind of flip them back and forth, mostly to do it. But then every now and again, put some subliminal messaging to get them to stop. And I think that's what I really liked.
Here's what we want you to do, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah. And it was just little things too. Like, it started off with just little teeny things. And then eventually it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you're in this situation and you're like, how the hell did I get here? You know what I mean? And obviously I don't think every situation leads to murder. Right. But it's a good example of how little things can escalate and just get out of control before you even realize it.
Right. Exactly. Which actually brings me to the next experiment that I wanted to bring up, which I think most of you already know. My sister loves this social psychologist, Philip Zimbardo. Now, he ran the Stanford prison experiment, which was he took a bunch of students. All of them were involved, but each of them had a different role. There was two roles. One, you could be the prison guard or the prisoner. Prisoners were literally arrested at their their homes, like literally.
Oh my
Took into central booking, where they were fingerprinted, put in holding, and then brought back to the university basement where they would run the experiment. They were stripped and deloused. They were issued prison garb. Guards also wore special sunglasses to make eye contact with the prisoners impossible. This is like another site so that they looked like authority rather than a person, an individual.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So during the experiment in the summer of 1971, 24 young men were assigned to the role of either prisoner or guard and quickly adapted to their roles, maintaining an appearance of a 24-hour prison in the basement of a hall at Stanford's campus. The guards, who worked in 8-hour shifts, took advantage of their power. So again, 24 hours, 8-hour shifts, took advantage of their power, ultimately. And prisoners rebelled within 36 hours of the start of the experiment. But each individual soon forgot that they were subjects in an experiment and not people in a prison. So it was this weird thing where, for as long as they were in the experiment, they really were in it. But as soon as it was over, it just stopped. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, they went down this huge rabbit hole where the prison guards were abusing the prisoners. The prisoners were revolting. Some were bargaining. Some were ratting the other out. That whole thing.
How long did the experiment last?
It only 36 hours. It devolved so quickly. Now, I want to say out front.
That's like nothing.
Yeah, I want to say out front, though, this experiment has been heavily, obviously criticized, but it's been in some ways debunked here and there based on the conditions. But regardless of it, and they made it into a movie, by the way. I think it was semi-recently, too, which I would probably urge you to watch because it'll show both sides of this. Like, what was this all for? That whole thing, like what did this prove? So according to Zimbardo and his colleagues, the Stanford prison experiment revealed how people will readily conform to the social roles that they are expected to play, especially if the roles are as strongly stereotyped as those of the prison guards. Because the guards were placed in a position of authority, they began to act in ways they would not usually behave in their normal lives. Which is what basically Percy was trying to push on Iris. He gave her enough of a seat to say, oh, you are a shitbag, in a way, just at the end. Be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't trust him. But then when he's dead, you're dead. You can't do anything about it. Best I can do is save my own life. The authority to give her like almost instant agency to kind of take care of herself and run. Meanwhile, they have all their stuff and they can go away too. Most of the guards found it difficult to believe that they had behaved in the brutalizing ways that they had. Many said they hadn't known this side of them existed or they were capable of such things. The prisoners too couldn't believe that they had responded in the submissive, cowering, dependent way that they had. Several claimed to be assertive types normally. So again, this goes back to the teacher-learner experiment where the teacher was basically pushed and they'd done things that they wouldn't normally done, when being pushed by authority. Here they were given authority and behaved in ways that they were expected to, but it exceeded the expectation. So it's weird,
man,
how we can influence people.
I'm interested to know what kind of psychopaths start beating people after only 36 hours. Yeah,
exactly. They made them do push-ups. They would strip them down. Like the prisoners also started to get like a little ornery and revolting because of the abuse, and it escalated. Like each was doing this and that and that and that, and it escalated. The thing is that the biggest criticism of the experiment was that you basically gave guns to toddlers. Part of being in an authority position when you're like a guards person, a person in like corrections, or part of the thing about being a prisoner is build up. The idea of I did something wrong and I'm here to pay for it, or I was incorrectly incarcerated, or insert thing here. These people didn't do anything wrong initially, so they don't have that coming into the experiment. But in addition to the guardsmen, well, they weren't trained in firearms necessarily. These are people who are Stanford University students, or at least people participating in a Stanford study. They don't have the proper firearms training, the training to be a guard, the responsibility. They weren't given all of that stuff going into it. They didn't get all the training they would too. And Charity's just putting a neon sign on Strand. Strand.
Yeah, exactly.
The point of me saying all this is that, this is what is going on in this episode. Percy is just getting his mark. He's kind of pushing his influence. He's putting these people into boxes so that he can get them to do certain things, especially like Silas, like he sees, I think in some way he does see the kind of attraction that Silas has for Iris, and puts a little wedge in between that so that he can fuck off with Felix, but enough so that she would follow him in the back. Percy knows that he can get past where all the pitfalls are in Wilma's closet. It's their domain. Right. He controls that chessboard, so he knows to go straight to the back. He knows that Iris is going to be there too.
I was going to ask about that. I mean, Percy's putting money on Iris, basically
following him.
stranding Silas alone and going to do this. I mean, I feel like that's a big risk for Percy.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big risk for Percy. Yeah, and I would even say, like, how did you not know that maybe Felix would not have as much trouble with the Walker, even though he did? I like the funhouse mirror effect in the clothing,
right?
Sorry, the change room.
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of cool? It was like,
yeah.
Why have we never seen that before?
Eric and I both were like, why does that thing look so weird? Oh, okay.
It's a mirror. And we kind of fell for it in a way too, didn't we? Just like he did.
Yeah, my first thought was, why does that look so weird? But I didn't think mirror.
Yeah, it felt like every step of the way. Like, first of all, it felt like it took an awful long time for Felix to find his way to the back of this place.
Yeah,
where the stairs were. I mean,
but like you said, Percy has this place mapped out. You know, yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely, he pushed Iris to a point where, like a moth to a flame. Percy knows that the only person that seems to be digging his vibe, even though everybody's kind of rejecting it, even Elton on a level, like after he planted that lie for Hope to call him out on, Elton even goes, "Oh, so no buffalo." So like everybody everybody's out except for Iris. Iris keeps going, and he's like, "Yes, that's the one. That's the one who's going to be following me up those stairs."
There's the dummy.
Yeah. There's the optimist. That's the one who's going to follow me up and see things through.
I said
not Felix.
There's the dummy.
Yeah. Anyway.
Optimist, dummy. What's the same thing?
What's the difference? Dummy, mannequin, the one that...
Oh my God, yeah.
I wanted to point that out.
Sharondy or Nisa that called that out earlier too. Yeah, that mannequin. Oh, I jumped. There were so many jump scares in this episode.
That was great. I love it. Oh, like the guy in the elevator, which, by the way, I love doing this one thing. Every now and again, I try to figure out how the Walker died in a confined space. And it made me sad. Like, the Walker died in the elevator, and that's how he went out.
That's just depressing.
Just like the locker. Remember the locker is? My first thought is like, oh, did he die in there?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you thought he died in the locker, and I thought maybe somebody had came along and just pushed the Walker off to the side. I didn't want to think that someone died in a locker.
Some cruel Lord of the Flies high school shit. They put a nerd in the locker and he died there.
Right? Yes, Sharondy, I laughed so hard the way Iris looks at the mannequin after she realizes it's not a person, and she's like.
and then finding Percy in the back, and almost ending him in the same way. He's like, "You were about to fully kill me, weren't you? Like, no hesitation. Oh, right. Like you're a badass, aren't you?"
Further manipulation.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, you're a shitty person too.
Yep.
I promise I'm not. I'm here to save you.
I jumped out of my skin when Felix, Elton, and Hope were at the front of the building, and Percy just slaps his hand on the glass. I'm like,
What was, and that was interesting because it took me a little while to even like try to register why that was or what the deal is with that. And that was totally intentional.
That he scared the shit out of him?
Yeah.
Well, sure. He could have just opened the door and been like, hey, come on. No, he scared him on purpose.
Yeah. And it makes me think that like, I don't know all the mentalist tricks or anything. I'm not even claiming that I know even some, but like, I feel like there was something to that. It simultaneously maybe got them to think,
here's what it was.
I'm in trouble, or, oh, I'm an asshole.
No. Here's what it was. I'm going to scare the shit out of them, and they're going to be relieved when they see it's me.
That's great.
Yep.
See, the mentalist daughter. Oh.
And that's just going to further solidify their trust in him because they're relieved to see him.
Right. And furthermore, that he is alive.
Yeah.
And ferrying them into this position where they can finally, oh, you're still there. Okay. Well, now we can go to New York with you. Oh, everything's rosy. Good call. I like that. I like that a lot. HB back soon. So Huck B back soon.
Oh,
that Elton writes on the raft. Uh-huh. I didn't get it at first until I watched it again. It's like HB.
Oh, H.
HB back soon.
No, it's H. Be back soon.
Right. Why didn't he write the E? It's Elton, man.
Right?
B E. What does E mean? Okay. See, Elton's pulling a grift on me now. Elton John, obviously being Elton's name.
They totally right. Oh my gosh. I was so excited in that moment to find out. Yep. And what does he bring up? Tiny Dancer, doesn't he?
Right.
And he bring up Tiny Dancer.
Right. Calling him a tiny dancer. Right.
Yeah. Playing the music while she's cooking breakfast. And yeah, we find out he's named after Elton John.
And this is something we hit on in the last episode, but in particular, why it's so crazy that he mentioned this here, because in just later, Iris mentions that, we all lived in a bubble. When we go back and watch this episode again, when we see how Elton regards his mother, and something I said in the last episode is that he regards her in a way that she describes these things as though she's fearless. And I feel like now that we're actually looking at this episode, so seeing how he regards his mother's work, I feel like he's putting that on her. Like, oh, she was so fearless when talking about these subjects that would normally be something that would be hard to talk about. She's dispassionate about it, but this is just the way it is. She just made me feel better. Like, he's trying to reconcile, obviously, the things he knows in the daily life, like putting the vinyls on and singing, and her voice sounding like a bronchial infection, but things like that. But then referencing it with this work that's very dispassionate, very matter of factly, very floral in a way. It's written a little florally to kind of ease the person into it. It's like, no, it's okay. This is just what happens. But he turns that into something where maybe people will feel less afraid of this when they read this. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's what's going to happen, Elton. But I think it means more to him than it would mean to anybody else. Meaning, like, he is projecting this image of who Amelia must have been like in the face of a dangerous situation to make him feel less afraid, right? Mm-hmm. Because we all know what happened at the end. She was so afraid she shot Iris's and Hope's mom, which in turn got Hope to kill her, and so the cycle continues. But I say that because because Iris talks about the bubble to Percy later, and I was like, wait, but who is living in a bubble? Elton is living in a bubble too. This whole thing that he's doing with this manuscript is a bubble. Like, he's maintaining this bubble of an idea of what his mom was. And it's like a time capsule also. Like, she's forever this way, and building also maybe even a mythology with that in mind. And he just wants to keep her there forever. And I feel like the moment Hope pops that bubble, possibly, and knowing maybe how afraid she was at the end, how does that, in a way, like we talk about tainting relationships, like how Virginia tainted John and June's relationship. I feel like Hope telling him the truth is an unavoidable tainting of his relationship between he and his mother.
At this point, it's like, do you feel like Hope should tell him, or is it better that he has hope that she's out there somewhere?
This is like a Sophie's choice of a question,
right.
Almost, but
right. There's no good choice.
Do you let him live in this thing where it's possible that he could find her and his sister again? Like, this really does kind of go back to our conversation about mediums and making people believe in certain things. Yeah. Like, if we keep them believing in the illusion, is that the healthiest thing? And most would argue, no, it is not healthy. It'll cause them to do things, say things, believe things that aren't true, and which could cause harmful circumstances. So ultimately, does that mean that she ought to tell him? No, maybe not. That's the thing. That's the other thing.
Right.
Both of these choices aren't very good.
Well, and Sharon D's making a good point, and I do believe that. So Sharon D's saying, I don't think she should. What does it hurt to let him believe? The only person that confession will make feel better is Hope. And I totally agree with that. Now, on the flip side, if I were Hope, I would be fine letting Elton have that hope that his mom is out there, that Esmeralda's out there someplace. But here's the thing. If Hope is going to let Elton believe this, she needs to ditch that marble, because he's going to see it. He's going to recognize it. He's going to ask her about it. That's what's going to happen. He's going to see it.
Yeah. What I'm worried about more, and I'm not worried about even about him seeing the marble. Dime a dozen short. This is stuff that we know, but he doesn't know. This is things that you see out in the world. It's possible that it's any old bead, whatever. He doesn't know the difference. He's not going to know instantly that that's his mom's bead. Let's be real here, like realistic, He's going to see it all of a sudden and see, where did you get that? Like, no, this is,
no,
you know what I mean?
But he might say, oh,
that's a cool dude.
My mom had one just like it.
Or like that, or yeah, maybe. Like, that's kind of funny, yeah.
I mean, one of the last memories he has of his mom is discussing that bracelet.
Yeah, that's true too.
I do think that memory will be in his mind. I don't think he'll necessarily go, accuse Hope. Well, where did you get that? That's my mom. I don't think so, but I do think he'll recognize it, and I think he'll say, "Oh, my mom had one just like that."
Yeah, but moving past that, the thing that I'm worried about, something that you guys may not believe, first of all, but may not operate on, is that if he operates in the world with this assumption or this fantasy, even he says himself, it's not likely, but it could be that, when you come across a community, he'll be like, do you recognize this woman in this picture? She may have a child with her, and they'll be like, oh, she kind of looks like somebody in the community, and he'll operate on those principles, even though it's impossible. Now, how far Hope lets him operate on those principles could be very harmful for him. He may end up doing things he wouldn't normally do. Again, it's going back to the experiments. He may end up doing things he wouldn't normally do in the name of thinking that these people were alive. This is why I say it does harm people. It does. It'll make you do things you wouldn't normally do. I'm being like such an activist, but like I'm not saying, but under normal circumstances there'd be no people, more people.
You're right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You think it's good to have hope, but as soon as you start behaving, behaving in a way, to have hope is good, but false hope not so much, right? I mean, because like you said, you start behaving in a way that you normally wouldn't if you didn't have this false hope. Right.
If you came to reconciliation to find out, to saying goodbye here and there, right? That's one thing. It's healthy. People need to do that. But so this is just one scenario I'm thinking of off the top of my head. There could be so many others where like he thinks he sees his mom in the distance and runs after her, but it's really a siren from mythology. I'm just saying it like, again, he'll be seeing her face everywhere, maybe imagining what his sister's face would be like. And then, who knows with some people, but I guess all I'm saying is that, okay, what's the alternative, right? And the only thing I could say is that to try not to be Martha. What I mean by that is the big takeaway that we found out by the end of season 4 was her whole thing was that she didn't look past the surface of what people could be or what people really are, meaning they could be more horrible. True. But I think most people have good intentions. Most people are self-preservationists. Doesn't mean that they all have to help, but it means that inside them is the person that is willing in good circumstances to be well-intentioned. And so what I mean by all this is that we have to give Elton maybe a little bit of credit, and that's we keep imagining the worst. And it could be that all along Elton could surprise us. We don't know. Elton could understand immediately. It could be that Hope lives out, and this is the opposite, the reflexive mode, which is if Hope keeps living in this place where she's trying to grasp the value of a life that she had taken. The opposite is also true. You have two people on the other ends of the mirrors, one that believes that she's alive, that his mom's alive, and the daughter and his sister somewhere out there thriving, 10-year-old sister. And the other side of the mirror is someone who is trying to believe on a level of hope that there could be an uptick of like, I can do good and maybe the blowback won't be so bad when eventually he finds out. Like, I could try my best to be this thing. And so, but in the meantime, this could also produce Hope the person until she finally tells him something. Her behavior can produce negative outcomes as well. Because for as long as she doesn't tell him, she has to con him.
That's true too. Yep.
So it will go down a rabbit hole. Will she keep having to cover up things or trying to pretend things are okay when they're not? And she's going to operate on being not okay. And maybe doing things she wouldn't normally do for Elton to make up for these things. Elton doesn't know anything. Elton thinks she's attracted to him.
Yeah. Right.
And she was technically before even looking at the picture. And then if they get together, let's say, he'll be like, you only liked me because you killed my mom and you felt sorry for me and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I liked you beforehand. Look, I didn't see the picture until, that moment in the campfire, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I still hope that, I want Hope to talk to Iris about all of this before Elton knows anything. I don't know.
Yeah, you keep hitting that. But you know what's so funny about Iris knowing? And this is the thing where I tilt the tripod just a little bit.
Go ahead and flip it. I don't care. Flip it over.
Flip it over, smack it in the ass. And then so Hope having told Iris all of this could be her very undoing also, because Iris could come in from the rear and go, hey, you didn't know Hope killed your mom?
Oh shit. Well, technically, Iris
she wouldn't. I'm just saying that would be funny, but not funny.
But Iris doesn't even know who the pregnant woman was.
Right. That's true too. Yeah, I guess
She knows she knows there was a pregnant woman, but she doesn't know that there was a connection to Elton yet.
But what if Iris puts the pieces together somehow? Like this describing his mom all the time, and I don't know how, but like,
well, what's the only description Iris knows about Amelia? She was pregnant, right?
Right now, yeah, I don't know. Yes, that's true.
How many other pregnant women were there the night the sky fell? At least one other one.
Probably oodles of doodles, yeah.
Exactly. So to shoot one pregnant woman doesn't necessarily mean it's this pregnant woman.
Right. Oh, but like, no, but Elton could probably drop things that end up like, making her believe.
Locations, like where she might have been.
Well,
that
between
could be tell.
Yeah, between Hope and Iris could put the pieces together, and then on the side, like in a roundabout way, could say something about Hope in a dire, because, okay, let's bring it back to some sort of sneak peek, right? Hope is in a dire position in the next episode. She's held at gunpoint by an assailant while they go into this CRM refueling station facility, whatever it's called. And it could be that Hope is placed in a position where she feels like she has to tell whomever, doesn't matter who, about this dark secret. So it may end up being that both Iris and somebody else know about the secret, or Elton finds out the secret because he's there, doesn't want to die not telling him. There could be a lot of things going on here. Yep. All of this to say, by the way, I kind of want to also flip the table now, because when we do get to the episode and we do see this thing at the end, it is kind of a relief both to the audience, who is also in some ways, feeling what the kids are feeling, like about how humanity can be sometimes horrible, like con men stealing things from erstwhile good people, maybe. Good people who are just interested in preserving their lives, right? Leaving a scene where somebody just killed somebody, coming down the stairs and realizing that fake has-been Tony stole all their stuff and is running away with the truck. But then you get to the end and these kids are distraught, blah, 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 and they watch this thing that makes both the audience feel what the kids feel and what even Tony and Percy feel about the world. And your heart's warmed up. And it just occurred to me when the credits rolled, obviously we get the stinger, we're going to have to talk about that, but
oh, yeah.
But then when this all happens and this is all said and done, I started to think about the people who slam this show and the people who really want to see what they want to see, right? You're talking about people who are begging to see one thing, but then end up with this other thing, this story that people may or may not be interested in. And I keep thinking to myself, like, it is called The Walking Dead World Beyond, right? Let's not get it twisted. But it's its own show. It's trying to tell its own story. And I know you called that somebody's going to get injured and hurt, and they were, in a sense, injured, and hurt emotionally. Their perceptions were injured. Like they ought not to trust people. And in I would even argue one of the worst ways possible, without giving them this weird, immeasurable trauma like that we usually get from The Walking Dead World Beyond. But in a way, their experience with Tony and Percy was like the best of all outcomes, because they got the education without all the punishment. Yeah. And they can be around for however long it's going to be to kind of teach them even more without having to, get an education, like on the street of hard knocks. But I wanted to go back to this point, which was like, I feel sorry for people who watch this show thinking, we're going to get these connections to Rick, the CRM, even Fear the Walking Dead. And I feel sorry for them because they're missing out on essentially what the show has been trying to tell people. There is beauty out here. And there is a beautiful story to be told here. And I feel like the people who just shit on it, like even like, was it the tiger? No, the wrong end of the telescope that everybody slammed. Like interweaved into that story was this story of Sabina James, who Iris was projecting the person she could have been if she hadn't been thinking about the future so much, or, focusing on the future too much. You could allow yourself to get lost in some of these stories, just like Iris was on Sabina James. And if you don't, you're just going to reject it. It's kind of like the illusionist. The illusionist wants you to be susceptible or highly skeptical, so that either way you're involved. But they don't want somebody that's not going to even bother participating or even enjoying the show. And so it's kind of like, if you're not watching this to see a story, if you're not watching this to get some beauty out of it, and you're just trying to do this to see connections, really don't watch. Just watch the stingers and watch the little clips where they mention this thing. Just don't bother watching, because you're ruining it for all of us who are really enjoying the journey, which is the point of the show so far as I can see, is this is a journey, a hero's journey. Yeah. This is their story.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm here for it. I don't have to always agree or like it, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. Listen, you don't have to like everything, but overall, like the reason why you keep watching isn't, and if the reason is you're watching is just for the connections, it's like, well, I mean, you're entitled to that, but like, I can't use you on the show, folks. You know, because
Don't-
I'm in it.
Don't complain about not getting what you want. I mean,
Yeah, that's it. It just bugs me because I'm by the end of the episode, I'm getting really emotional. You know, if the fact that we're all the same, we see things the same way, but we have to operate in the world differently.
I thought we had gotten rid of Percy and Tony. And to be honest, in that moment, I was glad because I don't like this Percy honing in on Silas's woman not sitting well with me.
That's my boy. That's my boy,
right.
Silas.
That's my boy. He was just getting his confidence up, and then Dimples swoops in. Get out of here. Get out of here.
But you know what my first thought was when Silas said, "I won't stop you"? Can you guess what my thought was?
He says it to Iris, right?
Yeah.
It won't stop you. Yeah. No. What were you thinking?
Daryl and Carol.
Right?
Right? I'll never stop you.
Right to the gut.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it made me instantly think of that.
For her.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought, how mature is this guy? I mean, look who makes it look so easy. Silas. Yeah. Come on, bro.
Now, see, when I heard him say that, I thought he was thinking Iris wanted him to stop her. And he's like, I'm not gonna stop you. Like, if this is your choice, this is your choice. Go ahead, you know. But yeah, I like the Daryl and Carol connection.
Reference? Yeah.
A little bit.
It's just
I like
kind of.
Well, because then it's showing, you know, that he respects her, not that he's like, psh, good luck, which was what I thought.
Not like, now it's my chance to prove that I can be the hero that you are, that sort of thing. Like, remember what Percy says at the end? It's like, come on, idiot. Like,
right.
It may work on other ladies. It's not going to work on me.
Right.
JK, I'm into it.
Eric and I both lost our shit when Tony stood up too and started walking towards Silas. And we're like, they shot him in the head. Why is that walker getting up? They shot him in the head, right?
Right. I was thinking, oh, he's an army. I like thought of all these scenarios. He must be an army vet with those metal plates. Oh, you know?
I know. I'm thinking, I'm like, did it just skim his head? Are we sure we saw it go all the way in? Yeah. And I'm like trying to play back what we saw of Tony and the bullet. And I'm like, no, it definitely got him. What's happening?
No, it's just lodged in the metal plate in his head. You know, the one that he got in Nam. You know,
right?
Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, by the way, Tony's probably not even that much older than I am in real life, the actor. Oh, his name is Scott Adsit.
Oh, thank you.
That's what Sharon says. Oh, 30 Rock. He was in 30 Rock. Okay, listen. What was great about the intro sequence, what I'm calling now the intro sequence, which I really liked so much. I really liked that beginning sequence so much. And I was like, is that the intro? It's so clever. It says everything about the show, the beauty and the destruction, the how it went down, what these kids on the surface thought of what it was like before and what it is now, what they're seeing out in the world, the skeleton and everything. Like, I'm like, that is so good. And it even kind of looks a little like the Walking Dead's intro sequence too, like with the photographs and all that stuff and the symbolism for who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I really want to see that in the next episode. Now, we know we won't, but which is weird because I was so attached to it. And we saw it in the end again. It really warmed my heart. But what made it even better, you didn't listen, was Patrick Watson, his song in the background. Mm-hmm. And I love Patrick Watson. Patrick Watson hits you in the heart in places like a 5-finger death punch. Like, you don't know you're dead, but you're dead.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be so grim, but he is such a kind, creative, hauntingly singing musical person. Now, I have an unfair advantage of having associate this person, Patrick Watson, with an ex-girlfriend of mine, and it symbolizes our relationship in a weird way. It's dark, it's fleeting, it's and I kind of want to I'm going to give you the meaning of the song he plays before I tell you the lyrics. And this is according to a reviewer who connected with Patrick and went through what the album meant or what the song meant specifically.
Okay.
And the song is called Here Comes the River by Patrick Watson, inspired from a postcard in Beijing that he picked up in Beijing. He picked it up on the streets of Beijing, and the streets were flooded, and the postcards were on top of the hoods of cars.
Oh, geez.
You know? And he said, sometimes the only way to break free and let things go is you need to flood until the flood is over. Cry until you can't cry no more, right? And that's the thing. That's the theme of the overall album or the song itself. And like everything you know can be wiped away in a moment's notice, but we don't have to be wiped away with it. So there's a little bit of that hope. It's like, look, that can happen, but we don't have have to go away with it. And usually what ends up happening is when you lose a loved one, this is what I felt when someone was ripped away from me, is that it just felt like frustrating, because how is the world moving on? Shit. Hold on a second. How is the world able to move on? And then I feel frustrated because I can't move on with it. I have to be in this stuck position until I'm ready to move. And it took me so long. It took me really, really long, like a year or two. And I going back and forth between blaming myself, and because you're doing that thing that you can't reconcile how the world is able to move on. But I like the idea is that you don't have to be wiped away with it. Once you start realizing that you have no choice but to move on, you do. And because everybody else is moving on anyway. Everybody else has to do their thing. Mm-hmm. And so do you. You still go to work. Even though these things occupy your thoughts, you still lend your other thoughts to these other things, and things get easier. But it's also about, the song is also about learning to love yourself amidst that loss. It's like kind of like his exact words were, it's kind of like a love song, but to yourself. And so I thought all of these things at once. And so the lyrics go like this: the windows turned to fish bowls, so literally flooded fish bowls, the cities to seas, the cars were drowning underneath your feet, the children were swimming from the top of the trees, crowds of umbrellas were staring in misbelief, because nothing you can do now. Well, Mary kept sewing, holding on to her TV, even if the water was rising past her knees. Like, again, Mary can't move on, can't see the forest for the trees. Ha, 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 ha. That rhymes. Nobody told you it was going to be this hard. Something's been building behind your eyes. You lost what you hold on to. You're losing control. There ain't any words in this world that's going to cure this pain. Sometimes it's going to fall down on your shoulders, or you're going to stand through it all. Now here comes, this is the chorus. Now here comes the river. You're crying, coming on strong, and you can't keep your head above these troubled waters. But the next line is, here comes the river, over the flames. Sometimes you got to burn to keep the storm away. Sometimes you got to just, and it's just, you got to do what you got to do because you're still here. And this is the series, sure, but this is also the episode too, not seeing the thing for what it is, a con. And it's not your fault. This is just what we do.
That's how cons are designed. You're not supposed to know.
Yeah. Until you start to see that everybody else is moving on without you. And that's the thing, that's the beauty and the loss, but also the ability to love yourself through it out, like you to defend yourself when you're being shitty to yourself, and just letting yourself, let yourself burn, just, let yourself cry, let yourself burn, do what you need to do so that you can join everybody else. Yeah. And then Charity says, we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. Yeah. But, you have to understand that you're a fish first, right? Yeah, it's Patrick Watson is a haunting singer. Has that, it's a great song to go with it too. And it's these kids letting themselves feel okay with being tricked. It's these kids letting them, they feel stupid, they feel betrayed. And it's like, look, this is our way of saying, we as entertainers, saying that we understand what you're going through. How do you think we felt when we realized the world turned to shit and then people started attacking us? And, my parents died, Percy's parents died and his uncle took care of him and all that stuff. How do you think we felt when this all went down? You guys had the comfort of Campus Colony, but oddly enough, we do see things the same way. We see the beauty in this is why we're out here, where we see the beauty that still exists in odd places. Listen, we got some great moments. Dave almost cried on air. It's great. Listen, it's rocking and rolling. We're doing our thing. But we still have to do one thing. I almost don't want to do it, but we have to go through the stinger.
Oh yeah.
That we see after the credits. Actually, after the first look into the next episode.
This one's a little more, I guess a little more and a little less informative.
Yeah, it actually is. it, in a weird way, I think it almost reflects the episode too, because they were examining test subjects, the TSs in the.
Are you sure it wasn't Tiger and the Lamb? Because Wrong End of the Telescope was just the last episode, wasn't it?
Oh, you know what? Let's not go into the stinger just yet. Charity actually brought me back on track. Felix and Tony actually have a very frank conversation, by the way, about how this is going to go. The end of the story is Tony does agree to take them wherever they want to go, but not without going to this refueling station, because who do you think they took the truck from? They pulled back the tape, showed the CRM album, says, that's a nice fancy thing you got there. Is that going to help us later on? Now, here's the thing. Do you believe Tony when Felix says, yeah, it'll help us get out of this bind?
Absolutely not. Are you kidding? This is the first time we've seen Felix step into an authoritative role. Like, yeah, I'm important. No, you don't even believe that, Felix. Shut up.
So Tony doesn't believe him when he says it can get him out of a jam, right?
Tony might believe him, but I don't.
Oh, no. I'm not saying you. I'm saying, do you think Tony believes him? Because he says right out, don't bullshit a bullshitter. I feel like almost Tony, like, okay, that's fine. What you said, I'll understand is the truth, but I'll really know that you're full of shit, and I'll operate on the fact that you're full of shit, but pretend that you aren't.
Yeah.
Sharondy's saying, hey, which part of the CRM are you? Like, she's pretending to be a CRM soldier. Campus Colony. I'm Felix. I'm from Campus Colony. Oh, we've been looking for you. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not how. Tony's not going to let that happen, or he's going to let that happen because he lied to him.
Yeah. So do you believe that Tony was at one point a part of CRM, or did he steal this vehicle and disguise it?
Oh, no, I regard that as the truth, because Percy actually specifically used that incident as part of the con in the beginning. It must have skidded off the road on the ice and crashed into whatever the has been the driver fishing out the pockets. It was too visceral and real because they both kind of used the same point of view, right? This is the only
and the best part of the best thing you can do in a con is use a bit of truth.
Yeah, exactly. Best part of a lie is when we can mix in the truth.
Exactly.
By the way, Sharondy is, so I was right. It was the wrong end of a telescope, because the last one was Madman Across the Water. And so, which is also funny because the test subject, telescope, science, science, bitch.
Right. Wrong end of the telescope. Yeah.
And then Shadow Puppets is kind of cool because of the way this stinger comes about. Well, let's talk about the stinger with Lila again. Lila Belshaw.
That's right. We get a last name this time.
That's right. And I'll get into that in a second, but it does kind of look almost the same. Like, we're going to get the similar kind of stinger. It focuses on the scientists in the photo first. And you think it's going to go the same way again, because the way we see Lila in the first stinger that we got 2 episodes ago is that she's so dispassionate. You know, she's into the work. She's not feeling anything at the time. She does look at the photo a little bit, but, twice, but is very into the work, very dispassionate. Doesn't seem to really regard Michael Abbott, aka test subject A402 or something like that. But in this one, it's like you get a peek behind the screen where the shadow puppets are playing. Mm-hmm. You get to see more consternation in her face. The first shot is of the photo, but when you peek out and you see Lila Belshaw staring at the photo, she looks conflicted. She's more maybe in mourning or worried, than last time. Where she was eating a sandwich dispassionately.
Mm-hmm. Sheridan's keeping our facts straight. It's
Michael Abbott.
Dr. Samuel Abbott. Michael Abbott.
You're right. My bad.
Played Isaac.
Samuel Abbott. Who looks like Samuel Adams. No, I'm just kidding. My bad. Samuel Abbott. Right. Okay. My bad. Again, with the names, there's just so many at this point. It's hard to keep track.
There are a lot of names.
And last names. Surprising amount. She takes out Leo's work from the drawer. Nebraska State University Genetic Research Laboratory. Advanced Immunology. What to Know in the Age of the Unknown. I sound like Felix now. What to Know in the Age of the Unknown by Felix Belshaw. Anyways, no, by Dr. Leopold Bennett. But it's weird that you have this weird kind of connection where, just like Amelia Ortiz's work, she has her face in it for Elton, obviously, because he's the reader.
Yep.
But Leo has this card that obviously Iris had made, depicting Hope and Iris. And in the card it says, Dad, hurry up, finish saving the world so you can come home. We love you. Mm-hmm. And so I like that little connection there between the two works, the way she might be regarding this work of Dr. Leo Bennett's. And my note on those two works is that, like, maybe they aren't that different at all, Amelia Ortiz and Leo Bennett. The idea.
Let's hope their fates are different. See, I what I learned from this scene is Leo's alive.
Yes.
Lila confirms.
Let's go through that, because Kubelik calls her up on the phone. You only hear Lila's end of the phone call, though. And that's she says, hello. Yes, I'm working on that, but and she says, of course, it'll be taken care of by the time they arrive. Mm-hmm. Who's they?
Hope and Iris.
You think?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was thinking that too, but I kind of always have to do that thing that I do that annoys everybody.
Well, I mean, I do think that. I mean, I think that's where the breadcrumbs are leading, right? I mean, she gave them the map to get out of Campus Colony the night before they massacred everyone. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, she knows. I mean, she planted that seed where their dad is. She knows they're resourceful and they're brave and they're going to make the travels to New York. Hopefully they make it. I mean, in her mind, she's probably thinking, hopefully they make it.
It's funny. It's funny you mention that, because I do want to mention one more thing, brave and hero, and right. Hopefully they make it. This is the thing that that Percy said, and I want to connect that to, we just watched an episode where Virginia calls John a hero, and Percy admits that, like, you taking a chance on me, you saying I was somebody worth saving, means you're the hero. You saw right through me before I knew what hit me. And I just thought connecting these, again, it cannot be a coincidence that, or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing what I want to see.
You're believing him. You're believing him. Well, I think everything he says from now on is a con.
I actually, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I am. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm drawing the connection between how there is some weird parallel connection between The Walking Dead World Beyond and Fear the Walking Dead. And again, maybe I'm seeing what I want to see. I don't know.
I think we've learned after 10 years that they don't do anything by mistake.
Yeah, but it just follows directly in these episodes. It's this, the hero. Who is the hero? Is John a hero? Why doesn't he like it? Blah, blah, blah. Iris seems to like it. No, I'm just kidding. But it's this weird thing where, like, and again, having your name like Percy doesn't make it any easier. Like, I want to be what my namesake is. That's what I've always wanted to be. But I needed to be shown that some people do really care, that I may be worth saving. But going back to the stinger, right? Yeah, it could be them. I don't know. The they that she's referring to.
That's what I think anyway. Yeah. I could be wrong. Again, totally wrong.
Sleight of hand, misdirection, whatever it is. But Dr. Bennett won't be a problem, she says.
Yeah, that's how that gave me more alive. That gave me more pause than who are they? Yeah,
he's not
Dr.
test subject.
Bennett won't be a problem.
Right. He's not test subject A404 or A401 or A403. We never got to see who that was. He has a name. Sharon says she also says it's Morgan telling Grace she didn't think her life was worth saving, so she made it about his. Yeah. So the thing that made it more real was that he didn't have a test subject name. And she also says his security detail, meaning he is alive enough to have a security detail. Otherwise, we'll be like, I get the flock out of here.
Right. So he says, security detail. We're also hoping that this is Will.
I love how this is a detail and it's only one person. You know, the security detail won't be a problem either.
And I'm still hoping it's Will. I mean, she didn't call the security detail by name, so
we
hope it's Will.
But here's the thing. What's really interesting about where this is going is that it seems as though maybe those messages were real that he sent the girls in some way, or maybe a particular version or one of the two things that came in is the real message, right? So, and which makes me think also that the second one wasn't, and the first one was the one that was
the clearly written one or the messed up one.
The first one is real, the messed up one, and the second one it wasn't. It was because it was more neatly laid out. Don't bring Felix.
Okay,
you know
that one.
Yeah, because it seems as though they just want the girls. Like, don't tell Felix, meaning even though he knows. So that's the thing, right? Felix knows about the cabinet. They made sure that we knew that they knew that Felix knew about the cabinet.
Felix knew about. I followed that. I did.
So they don't know everything. It's so cool. So one of them definitely was of him. And the second one was like, oh, I am in trouble. Matter of fact. Oh, I love you, Hope and Iris.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. So I don't know where they are, who they will be at, or what is going on, but we're getting a clearer picture now. And I'm a somewhat clearer picture. Of course. Thank you, Lieutenant Curl. So we find out it's her. Now, here's the thing. Lila stares into a noticeably vacant, dark red examination room, whereas last time, 2 weeks ago, it was a bright blue dark. So there's like that contrast turning up / down thing. Examination room, trying to hide her consternation. It's like almost a flip from what the last episode was, where as before it was more matter of fact and completely emotionless, bright blue, vibrant, things are happening. This was more like nothing's happening. All around her is quiet.
But you hear the walker noises
at the end,
right?
As the camera pans
the farther we pull away,
right into the lab, the walker sounds start elevating as the camera pans out from her examination area, which is still blue inside the room ish, but like red, dark. Something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong here. So it's very interesting.
All right, this is kind of way out there now that I'm saying it out loud. But when I saw the empty room And having heard the conversation she just had with Kublek, I was thinking they're getting that area ready for these girls to show up. They're gonna clean things up and make this place look like something else. And when she said, Leo's not going to be a problem, meaning he's going to go along with whatever lie it is they're going to try and tell the girls about what this place is.
Right.
I'm not sure to what end, but I got the impression that they were going to basically sweep everything under the rug that they didn't want Hope and Iris to see. And part of that was hiding all of these test subjects.
Right. Oh, yeah, that could be it too. So I'm really operating off, I don't know what to think, but I think
I don't either.
I think you're on the right track. Like making things seem like it's a different thing.
Yes.
Is a huge benefit to them. Because if they knew that the stinger, if they had an idea that what it really is the stinger of 2 episodes ago, that it's rocking, rolling, like things are happening, they might think, they're way ahead of the game than we are. We have to up our game. It's campus calling, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know, or something like that. They're impressed. So to dumb down the kind of, we're just but a poor outpost. We really have nothing going on for us. We're not 200,000 people strong. There's cobwebs everywhere.
We all share one microscope to do our studies.
Yes, and it's kind of broken. Hovel. Poor Leo Bennett, you can go home. Or can you?
Well, yeah, I don't know if they'll let Leo go, but yeah, I got the impression that they were going to try and sell this place to Hope and Iris as something that it's not.
Right, exactly. I like what you're saying. It makes sense, and the reason why it makes even more sense is it maps on to what we see in the next episode, which is them going to a refueling facility. You see the cobwebs in that facility, and you're like, oh, it's not active, right? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right? But maybe it is. But maybe it's not. But maybe that's what they want you to think. If you happen to stumble on it, they want you to see, oh, it's been abandoned. Ooh, what is that? Oh, I don't know.
I'll have to pay attention to where the cobwebs are placed, right?
Yes.
Because if it's webby in areas where people don't normally travel, but you got your vehicles and those aren't cobwebbed. I mean, they even could be. I mean, shit, I've had my car parked just out front for a day and a spider has made a web between my car and the mirror. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It's not going to take long for any spider to make its home on something that's been sitting there for a minute.
But those dusty cobwebs with the dust kind of falling off of yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a way, I'm sure they have, let's use the spider web gun.
These spider webs are so old, even spiders don't live in them anymore.
Right. They're like, yeah, we moved out of that neighborhood ages ago.
Yeah. Even the spider who built it doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah, God. It's like going back to your old home in that bad neighborhood. I remember it. Get the fuck out of here. I like living in a high rise. Nisa says, this is all making me very nervous. I don't want them to get there. And Shandy says, environmental experiments like in the last singer. So maybe that's why it's red. Who knows?
Oh, okay. Yeah, she did say that.
God, she said Miss Muffet moved in and gentrified it. CRM. Little Miss Muffet, CRM puppet. Anyway, so eating her curds and whey. Again, this was one of those episodes where I knew that we have a little bit more fun with it. We can go places here and there, shoot back and forth, because this is really fun. It is a fun watch. Mm-hmm. It's good to see, if you pay attention, Percy kind of working on these people. It's very imperceptible, but you do notice it on second watch. He's like latching onto this person, okay, let me give him more of that. Let me push more of that on her. Let me get her to turn on her, technically, or her to turn on her. Anyway, so you do see it, and it's really fun to watch. It's good to see even the cup trick again, because then you can actually see where the ball falls in front of him and he catches it.
You see these shows all the time where magicians catch people in the street and they try to trick them or whatever.
Right.
And I keep telling Eric, I'm like, why am I never in these places where these magicians are? Because no magician has ever come up and tried to trick me.
They can spot you a mile away. They know who you are.
Maybe.
You're the magician's folly.
But I want to be someplace and I want some street magician to walk up to me and try and pull a trick on me, and then I pull it on him instead.
You better be ready, because you got to think of a cool illusionist trick to kind of play on them.
And you know who I want it to be? David fucking Blaine. Fuck Blaine.
Wait, now you got to explain that. Why fuck David Blaine?
I hate David Blaine.
I'm not really into myself.
David Blaine is a TV magician. That is not real magic. Right up there with Copperfield.
Oh. oh, there's that because he's not old school.
Well, they're TV magicians.
So what does that mean?
It means anybody can do magic on television if you know how to edit properly.
In front of a live. Oh well, Copperfield did his thing under with a live audience though.
Magic isn't real. Magic is real. Illusion is different.
Yeah. Conjuring is just such a better. That's why I think conjuring is a better word. It's more. It mixes the lore plus the actual. It's not real.
Now, see, when you say conjure, it makes me think of like spirits and demons and otherworldly things, like conjuring up something that doesn't belong here.
Well, yeah, because it makes it more than what it is, right? Because you are creating the illusion.
Yeah.
You know, you are the conjurer. That's why it's not just I'm an illusionist. You know, I make you see a thing or not see a thing. No, you are creating you are conjuring the illusion. So there's an act. It's more it's more complementary to the magician.
That's why I wanna meet David Blaine. I need David Blaine to perform in front of me before I can say he's a magician or not. Because what I see on TV is bullshit.
I love it. I love this. I mean, again, I'm nonplussed. I do like the more hands-on magicianry, like the conjure, because it's more like you have to realize, and maybe this is what you're drilling down on, is that like it's more fun to make you believe that you saw one thing and then they show you a different thing, rather than something where like I bet I can pull a car out of my ass like that. Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't really care that you made a boat appear from nowhere. Like I want to how did this happen? Like, oh, we put a thing on that and it turned into 50 million ladies and what? No, I don't care about that. I care that you made me think I would see one thing and then it turned out to be a whole other thing. I like that play.
The grand illusions are less impressive to me than the close-up in your face, the close-up magic. I like close-up magic because you're right there. You see it. When you're watching something on a stage, it's like, oh yeah, lights and cameras.
Well, isn't it also better because there is a human component to it? It connects with you. Whereas the grand, whereas David Blaine's latest, because he used to be a street magician. We have to acknowledge that he used to be a street illusionist.
On television.
I think he got picked up and put on television too. He used to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Right? And then he went on to do grander,
Maybe. He says he used to do street magic. I've only ever seen him on television.
Oh,
I can't speak to that.
In the early days of the internet, he would put on these things where he would be fucking with real people. Remember when they used to call him the demon? Like, oh, he would be pulling shit on people in the street. Like, I remember who did this? Mad TV actually did a skit on that. Like, people thinking he was the demon.
Okay. Didn't Dave Chappelle call him a demon too?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of black people called him a demon. So anyway,
I could watch it all day.
The whole point, he went on to do this, but his new magic or his new illusions have been more isolating. They've been disconnected from people. I mean, you still see this illusion, but it's more like not trying to trick others, but it's been more like Harry Houdini feats of strength or feats of unshackling or something like that. That sort of illusion where you're disconnected from the audience.
See, I like Chris Angel. He does Houdini acts.
Well, because he fucks with people. Yeah, he still fucks with people.
Well, and he puts his body through the ringer. I mean, he does Houdini illusions. You know what I mean? He puts himself through these tricks, and yeah, I like Chris Angel. I appreciate his craft.
Yeah, and even the Amazing Randy, like he put his body on the line. But and look, David Blaine does too. But like they are more disconnected. They are more for the show rather than for the. I don't know, maybe the triumph over adversity. It doesn't feel like I care. That's the thing. Like when David Blaine's latest tricks have come out, I think more and more people be like, why should I care that you did that? That's really the main thing.
Yeah.
For some people like you and me. And that's why I don't care.
I guess I haven't seen David Blaine do what you're describing. Just what I've seen, I don't like.
Yeah.
So I don't like him as a magician. I don't respect him as a magician. I don't acknowledge him as a magician.
There you go. Thank you for joining us. And bye. Just kidding. If you like what you heard, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. 5 stars and an eggplant is all we need to know that you love us. But listen, we're humans. We want to do better. Let us know what you like. And let us know what you don't like. And if you have any suggestions, put them in there too. Anything. It all helps us. And if you really like us, like I said in the top of the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. Just follow us. You'll get to know us a little better, And if you do follow us, you'll know when our unedited unedited episodes drop. You know, the unedited episodes that you can get for free, like right after this recording. Did you get them yet? Did you get them? You didn't?
Right now. Right now.
Well, you're missing out. And it's a pay what you want model. So if you feel inspired to give us anything and you happen to reach $3, you will unlock our supporter-backed content on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, where you'll get unedited episodes for free and the ability to be with us in these episode recordings. So what are you waiting for? And with that, thank you so much for joining us, Nisa. And Sharon D, thank you so much. Can't wait to break down the Fear the Walking Dead tomorrow. Doot, 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 doot. Have a good night,
So we'll
people.
have to wait till 3 a.m. before we can watch it,
You
right?
can even watch it. Yeah. Oh, God. Sharon said, Squawking Dead's better than AMC Plus.
Right.
And I said at me, even though she didn't say at me.
That's right. We deliver. When we say we're going to give you something, you get it.
You get it right after. That's right.
Fuck SMV. I mean, AMC.
Damn, it's speech to text. Daniel, autocorrect. Love you guys. Have a good night. Take care. Enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you next time.